derailment there. Some of it directed at Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who now plans to visit tomorrow.
Well, I think it's way late in the game.
Ohio Congressman Bill Johnson telling Fox Business.
And that is sending a big signal to this community that the administration just really doesn't care. That's the message that they're receiving.
Though multiple federal agencies have been on the ground since the fiery derailment and chemical burn, along with officials, including the EPA administrator.
President Biden tweeted that he has been communicating with leaders in this region, as well as EPA Administrator Michael Regan. One tweet read, "We'll continue to hold rail companies accountable when they fail to put safety first." And the president wants residents out here to know that we've got your back.
Fox's Mike Tobin. The president wrapping up a trip to Eastern Europe with a summit of key NATO allies.
They talked about helping Ukraine as well as protecting every inch of NATO territory from a threat.
We've helped ensure Ukrainians can access basic services, and together we'll continue our enduring support for Ukraine as they defend their freedom.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson says today that NATO ignored others' security concerns and went beyond its traditional reach to stoke division.
Fox Business's Edward Lawrence at the White House. Meantime, Russia's president says his country's relationship with China has reached new frontiers as China's top diplomat visits Moscow amid U.S. concerns Beijing might move to supply weapons to Russia. An Israeli raid on a West Bank city leads to deadly fighting, killing at least 10 Palestinians. Israel says the raid was to arrest 3 wanted militants who opened fire. America is listening to Fox News.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. Hungry kids get sick more often and can struggle in school. It can be harder for them to focus and learn. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures.
We want to ensure that all of our kids have healthy meals every day.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping feed our kids.
To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Still some waves of rain and a couple of thunderstorms going through our Wednesday afternoon. Big deal for everybody. Strong gusty winds and quite mild. 68 for the high, though with the wind, not feeling quite that warm. Tonight, clearing skies, windy and 52. On Thursday, sunny, windy, 59 in the morning. Into the 40s Thursday afternoon and a fall to 22 Thursday night. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Hi, this is Thomas Helbig with the Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw, Tom's nephew. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is in linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online at retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review. Learn the strategies that have helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 36 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online at retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions, and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
AMCO offers easy payment plan options for most any credit situation, so you can fix it fast and pay it off slow at AMCO.
That's AMCO, AA, MCO.
Want to be 100% certain about your taxes? Jackson Hewitt backs your return for life. Switch today and get 50% off tax prep. 50% is a limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
We trust companies to do what's right, but when they don't, there's Onder Law, making a difference, one case at a time.
Call Onder Law Personal Injury Lawyers at 314 or 618 $9
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Come on, turn the radio on. It's Saturday and I won't be long.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
St. Louis city officials are speaking out, responding to this crash. That statement coming from the circuit attorney's office came out just hours after the parents of 17-year-old Janae Edmondson were inside this courtroom behind me, coming face to face with the man who was behind the wheel of the car that hit their daughter. Now, this morning, we are hearing from the St. Louis circuit attorney's office in a statement saying, in part, quote, a young girl's life was tragically changed because of the inexcusable behavior of a young man. Our hearts go out to the victim and her family for this unspeakable tragedy. This is not the time for finger pointing. It's the time to support this family.
Imagine thinking that this isn't the time for finger pointing. Yes, I give you, St. Louis, Kim Gardner. Welcome into the Annie Frey Show. Didn't want to make your blood boil right there from the top of the show, but here we are. We're in St. Louis, and if your blood isn't boiling, you're not paying enough attention. The story coming out of this volleyball player who in our city was minding her own gosh darn business at a volleyball tournament and has lost her legs because of somebody who should have, that whole right to a speedy trial thing. What's that? Give me a break. He should not have been behind the wheel of a car. This story isn't unique to this situation. This story actually happens in St. Louis so much that we don't even pay attention to it. You know how you can, walk down a hallway and the hallway's papered in flyers that are advertising, that are asking you for things, and you're just walking down the hall and there's a bunch of people asking you to buy this, support this fundraiser. You can become flyer blind to all of those things. They happen all the time, and it's so frequent, and the ask is always the same. They want something from you, and you just stop paying attention. Now imagine that being the case when it comes to crime in St. Louis. Nationally, of course, we hear about what's going on in New York. We hear about what's going on in Chicago. We hear about what's going on in California. We don't hear a whole lot about St. Louis, except for when we make one of those prolific lists that talk about how we are the top crappy city when it comes to crime. This is generally speaking where the bah humbugs say, well, you get the people that you elect. This is what you should get. Okay, but we can't afford to not do anything about it. We can't afford to sit idly by and have another child who's laying in his bed get hit by a stray bullet. Have another volleyball player that's coming from Tennessee get hit by a criminal in a car that shouldn't have even had the access to be in a car. Broke his house restriction 40 times. Nothing ever happened. Kim Gardner is worried about people pointing fingers? Your literal job as a prosecutor is to point fingers and find people who are committing crimes and take care of them. That's your job. But it doesn't seem to be your purpose. It doesn't seem to be your goal. Wake up, St. Louis. What are you doing? Now, I have way more questions than I have answers. I have a lot of anger about this. As somebody who is in downtown St. Louis 5 days a week, I am very concerned about this. I don't feel comfortable bringing my family downtown St. Louis, and that is a crying shame because St. Louis is a beautiful city with amazing offerings for people who come down here. It's just not safe. St. Louis is not safe. And I don't know that there's anything or anybody in place right now who's going to do anything about it. In about 15 minutes, Will Scharf is going to be in studio with us. He's a candidate for Missouri Attorney General, but he's also a former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Missouri. Talking about right here. He's a former policy director for the Missouri Governor's Office, and he's going to talk to us about crime in the city. He's going to talk to us about what police have to deal with working in the city, and he's going to talk to us about where the problems are and what problems we can fix. Of course, as I said, he's running for Missouri Attorney General. Is there anything he can do as the Attorney General? Is there any pressure we should be putting on the person who's in the Attorney General office right now? What can be done? Because something has to be done. Brad, you sent me that one of the threads, I think Will's thread on this, or some. No, you sent me maybe the statement from the Circuit Attorney Office, and you said it made your blood boil.
Yeah, I've sent a couple things that have made my blood boil, but now is not the time to point fingers. What on earth? What it is political butt covering is what it is. Look, it's an admission that what she did and her policies aren't working in this city, but she's like, don't look at me, don't point at me. What we really need to be doing is focusing on this girl. We don't need to be focusing on this girl if you do your dang job. If this person is in jail where they should have been, if this person who had multiple violations of their ankle, GPS monitor, if this person had been punished the way they should have been punished, this girl is still playing volleyball. She still has her legs. Her parents don't have to go to the hospital after they go to court to tell her, baby, you don't have any legs anymore.
Yeah. She's been on a ventilator. She didn't know. Her parents had to tell her.
She came to St. Louis to play volleyball, and now she's going home in a wheelchair with no legs. And it's all because of whatever nonsense this circuit attorney has in her brain about how crime should or shouldn't be punished. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. She can say, Kim Gardner can say, don't point the finger at me. I'm not the one who committed the crime. Well, at what point do we take people who commit crimes and put them away so they can't hurt and harm more people? What has to happen in order for that to be the obvious conclusion of somebody who's supposed to prosecute criminals? It's not a unique to St. Louis problem. It's an invested in, it's a funded problem. It's supposed to be happening because the people who invest, George Soros, among others, who invest in making sure that this is a situation for the city of St. Louis and the people who work in St. Louis, who abide in St. Louis, the people who want to tour St. Louis, however many people those are, this is the natural outcome. Were they rehabilitating this gentleman who had, from the reports that I saw, he didn't even brake when he hit her? What was he doing? Why was he driving? Why does nobody care? There's story after story after story in St. Louis just like this. If you look at your KZK, KMOV, KTVI, if you look at your local news stories, they report on these. Nothing happens. Nobody cares. Here's the good news. There are enough people pressuring Kim Gardner right now that she had to release a statement asking people to stop pointing fingers. This is where you double down and you point two fingers. You can pick which ones. It's infuriating. And it shouldn't matter only if it's your child or if it's your acquaintance. How many people in St. Louis know somebody who's been accosted by a criminal in St. Louis? If you know me, I've been carjacked in St. Louis. I've had a gun pointed at me on a different event on the Stan Musial Bridge at 8:30 in the morning, coming to work on a Tuesday. It's not safe. Those incidents, the carjacking happened 11 years ago. The gun on the bridge probably happened 7 or 8. Is St. Louis becoming more safe? Is St. Louis becoming more dangerous? And what are we doing to make it better? Imagine a St. Louis where people feel good coming downtown to a Cardinals baseball game. Imagine a St. Louis where you feel great coming to a wonderful city museum, or going to see a show, or going to walk in one of the beautiful gardens that they have in the city. We have so much to offer in St. Louis. Is it not worth it, Kim Gardner? Is it not worth it, Mayor Jones, to offer the people who live here, who work here, the idea of safety and security? Is it not worth it to go against the grain? San Francisco mayor, didn't she? London Breed. London Breed. Didn't she change her tune a little bit on this?
Yeah.
Are the people of St. Louis not worth the time and the money to invest in police and to support the police? To suggest that this is a place where you can go and law and order is respected and expected. Is that not what we should be doing? Is St. Louis not worth it? Do we not care? Do we have no self-respect? I mean, seriously, like I just said, I have way more questions than I have answers. Hopefully Will Scharf can answer some of these, but we need to know what the solutions are. And if you're somebody who, like he is, a former federal prosecutor, you might have a unique perspective on what Kim Gardner is doing to the city of St. Louis. I'm pointing my finger directly at you, Kim Gardner. Knock it off. Prosecute crime. It's really that simple. We need to value and invest in police. And if you want to work on rehabilitation, if you want to work on trying to understand people who are committing crimes, you cannot do that instead of prosecuting crimes, instead of arresting those people who are wreaking havoc on a beautiful city that doesn't deserve this. St. Louis doesn't need to go on like this. We have a choice. It's not the election. Right now, there's nobody who you could reelect into this position. I don't know what legal opportunities the Attorney General of the state of Missouri, the governor, has. I'm going to ask Will Scharf about that in a minute. But if the circuit attorney is saying don't point fingers, that means she's feeling a little bit of the heat. Make sure you turn it up. Make sure you let your voice be heard. That's generally speaking how you get these folks' attention. And I'm tired of always being on some list that somebody wants to joke about, us being the #1 murder capital of the world. New Orleans takes our place, and New Orleans, like they tried to opt out of being the #1 place when that list came out and St. Louis got bumped to #2 because of technicalities. St. Louis does the same thing. Stop caring about where you fall on the list and fix the problem. Seriously. It's absolutely maddening. Yesterday in the studio here, we were off air talking about Vivek Ramaswamy, and Brad goes, "You better watch him." And I said, "Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter, people saying he's going to run for the presidency." And of course, last night he threw his hat in the ring to be
We
candidate.
are in the middle of this national identity crisis, Tucker, where we have celebrated our diversity and our differences for so long that we forgot all of the ways we're really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago. And that's why I'm proud to say tonight that I am running for United States president to revive those ideals in this country, those basic rules of the road. Meritocracy, the idea that you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character. The idea that you are allowed to speak freely, yes, to be wrong sometimes, as long as your neighbor gets the same courtesy in return. The idea that the people who we elect to run the government, by the way, are the people who actually run the government.
You know, regardless of what you think about Ramaswamy's candidacy for the presidency, it's nice to hear somebody talk about how we spend all this time discussing what our differences are. Have we considered what our similarities are? Don't you think that safety and security is something that covers all amounts of diversity? That it doesn't matter what your skin color is, what your gender is, what you identify as. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter how old you are. Don't you think that all of those people deserve safety and security? Support the police. What a great way to get that process started. We're going to take a quick break and speak with Will Scharf in the next segment and have a great conversation about the city of St. Louis, why it's so dangerous, and what needs to happen to provide some safety and security to those people who are here, who are working here, who are living here, who want to visit here. He is a candidate for the Missouri Attorney General position. He is also a former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Missouri. He knows a lot about this, and he shares his insight when we come back. Join us on the YouTube live stream today. We're going to talk about this issue a bit later in the show, in the 2 o'clock hour. When should children have access to their own cell phone? Anytime, when parent approved, age 13, 16, or 18. You let us know what you think in the YouTube live chat poll. Come say hi. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
So shopping and saving right now is difficult unless you know the right place to go. If you were looking for groceries and household items, you got to go to Ruler Foods. If you haven't checked them out yet, just give them a try. Trust me, it'll be worth it. You shop in a very nicely organized and clean store and get the great discounts every day without having to coupon clip and so on and so forth on name brands and also on Kroger brands at Ruler Foods prices. Right now, 10 boneless pork chops or fresh hamburger patties for $10. Heritage Farm whole chicken fryer drumsticks or thighs, 97 cents a pound. 18-ounce blueberries or 2-pound kiwi, $2.97 each. 2 liters of Pepsi or Mountain Dew, buy one, get one free. Plus, they have great 10 for 10 mix or match sales, including things like Rice-A-Roni snack pack pudding, plus Kroger tuna pouches. Great ways to save every day at Ruler Foods. And if you haven't checked out the location nearest you, the best way to do it is to go onto the website and you can find the one that is most conveniently centrally located. Just go to rulerfoods.com for more information and start saving money. My family does it. I know your family will enjoy it as well. Rulerfoods.com.
If you own a home in St. Louis and you want to sell it as is without any inspections or the need to make any repairs, call Chris Buys Homes, stlouis.com at 314-782-8000 and get your cash offer without any obligation, commissions, banks, or headaches. Chris buys vacant homes, inherited homes, fixer-uppers, beautiful homes, even the tenant who won't pay the rent apartment. Google us. Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis and check out our best reviews from satisfied customers. When you sell to Chris, you decide when you want to move according to your schedule and your terms. Go to our website, chrisbuyshomes.stlouis.com, or call Chris at 314-782-8000. That's 314-782-8000 and get the offer you've been waiting for. 314-782-8000.
Are you ready to smell better naked? I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN creator of Lumi, the whole body deodorant that's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours on pits, feet, privates, and beyond. It's pH optimized to safely and effectively control odor anywhere you have it, but wish you didn't. Plus, it's proven to work better than a shower with soap alone. Whether you shower twice a day or 3 times a week, Lumi works better. And did we mention it's aluminum free? With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I'm so sure you're going to love it, or you can return it for free.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code 901 and get an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack that comes with a solid stick, cream tube, free product of your choice, and ships free with code 901. LumeDeodorant.com, code 901 for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. Love it or return it for free. That's LumeDeodorant.com, code 901.
Term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-777-1979. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-777-1979. Lou will make make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-777-1979. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds, too. Call 800-777-1979. 800-777-1979.
Attention bourbon lovers, Mark Cox here. Join me Thursday, March 2nd at the Clayton Wine House for an evening of sampling and mingling. Tickets include appetizers and tastings from some of the finest vendors in the market. Visit 971talk.com/events and get your tickets now.
Known to give the color red the blues. I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. Keep up. So many pretty girls around me and they're waking up the rocket. Keep up. Why you mad? Fix your face. Ain't my fault they all be jacking. Keep up. Players only. Come on, put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what
This is the Annie Frey Show.
24 karat magic in the gangsters, bad bitches and your ugly friends. I cannot preach, I cannot preach. I gotta show them how I can't get it in. First, take your sip, do your dip, spend your money like money ain't shit. Ooh, we too fresh. Got to blame it on.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. We're glad that you're here with us. And we have a very special guest in studio. Will Scharf joins us. He's a candidate for Missouri Attorney General, former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Missouri. And we are talking to him a little bit about crime in St. Louis. I don't know, Will, if has there been an outbreak of crime in St. Louis, or is this just a Wednesday? I mean, it seems like it's pretty status quo right now. These crazy things are happening.
The crazy thing to think about, Annie, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's always great to join you all. But the winter months are supposed to be your slow crime months. I mean, this is when more people are inside than they are during the summer. And we've seen just night after night after night shootings and chaos and violence, and I'm just scared of what the summer's going to look like if this is what the winter looks like already. But it's if we don't get this under control, this city and this state just don't have a future. And it's stunning that we're still here talking about these issues after years and years and years of a fundamental failure on the part of our government.
So the story of this young volleyball player is, for obvious reasons, it's kind of cutting through. And the frustrating thing to me about this is that I tend to try to retweet these things when I see local news covering them. Children laying in their beds in North City, hit by a stray bullet. And I mean, that happens on the weekend all the time. And we don't amplify it. So this story now, this volleyball player who was walking in downtown St. Louis gets hit by this criminal who has skipped out of his house arrest. I think the article I read said 40 times that his monitor went off because he wasn't where he was supposed to be when he was supposed to be there, and didn't break at all when he hit her. And turns out that Kim Gardner, from what I understand, I don't know, was he supposed to go to court years ago? And everybody was ready but Kim Gardner.
Yeah, so this story doesn't start over the weekend. This story starts in August of 2020. That's 2.5 years ago, when the perpetrator here, whose name is Daniel Riley, pointed an AR-15 in somebody's face and stole a Glock handgun from him. He was charged with robbery first and armed criminal action. The police brought together a great case, by the way. SLMPD, this wasn't an easy case. They identified their suspect. They got him into custody. They did everything right here. And then Kim's office, over a period of 2 years, rolled this case and rolled this case and rolled this case. Riley should have been held in custody pending trial. A judge cut him loose, but placed him on GPS monitoring, which was supposed to control him. Over the next 2.5 years, it wasn't just 40 times. There were over 80 incidents where he violated the terms of his release, and Kim Gardner's office did not file a single motion seeking to bring him into custody. So this guy's out running the streets, flagrantly violating his bail conditions, and that's how you end up with a situation like you ended up with last weekend, where a girl who's in town, a tri-varsity athlete, she's in town for a volleyball game, and now she's going home, as you said before, tragically, as a double amputee. And it's so frustrating, and I think it is cutting through, because there's no rational explanation for why this guy was on the street. Kim Gardner says, don't point fingers. I point my fingers straight at her and straight at the political establishment in this city and in Jefferson City, who have allowed this sort of situation to go on for years and years and years without taking firm action to get the circuit attorney's office under control and to get Kim Gardner to do her job.
Amen to that. Right now, I want to let you know we're speaking with Will Scharf here in studio. He's a candidate for Missouri Attorney General, former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Missouri. We do have, I'm just interjecting here, some severe weather in the area right now, and we want you to make sure that you are paying attention to the skies and are being prepared to take shelter in the need that the thunderstorms or weather gets worse than that. So please be mindful of that wherever you might be. And if there are updates to deliver to you, we will absolutely do that right here on the Annie Frey Show. You know, Will, the idea that Kim Gardner is saying don't point fingers, if you can't trust the people who are elected to put criminals away, it seems to me there's no other avenue to get these criminals off the streets of St. Louis.
Kim's been in office since 2016. She was elected in 2016. This isn't a new problem. Her office has been throwing cases, has been letting hardened criminals out on the streets since she got into office. And the fact that nobody's taken action to hem her in, to get her out of there, it's stunning. She was up before the Missouri Supreme Court on disciplinary charges. They did nothing. The legislature has sat on its hands, not passed any law that would allow anyone else to prosecute violent crime. Finally, now this session, they're taking action to basically have a special counsel who would be empowered to at least bring some cases in the city of St. Louis. If you commit a murder in the city of St. Louis today, your chances of serving time in prison for that are probably about 1 in 4.
Holy cow! Wait. If you commit murder in the city of St. Louis, your chance of serving jail time is 1 in 4?
Yeah, so the clearance rate, the number of murders that result in an arrest in the city of St. Louis, it goes between 30 and 40%. And when you combine that with how bad Kim's office has been at actually prosecuting murders, yes, that's right. I would hazard a guess that your chances of serving prison time for a murder in the city of St. Louis, significant prison time, are less than 1 in 4. That's unsustainable. If you don't prosecute violent crime, you get more violent crime. It's as simple as that. And until we change that dynamic, this city does not have a future, and this state does not have a future.
Man, Will Scharf in with us right now to talk about the crime taking place in St. Louis and really across the country in cities just like ours with circuit attorneys or district attorneys just like Kim Gardner. On the weather front, the National Weather Service has issued a tornado watch 41 in effect until 6 p.m. tonight, this evening. For the following areas in Illinois, this watch includes 15 counties: Bond, Clinton, Fayette, Marion, Montgomery, Washington, Calhoun, Greene, Jersey, Macoupin, Madison, Monroe, Randolph, St. Clair, Pike, and Missouri. This watch includes 15 counties: Crawford, Franklin, Jefferson, Lincoln, St. Charles, St. Louis City, Warren, Washington, Iron, Madison, Reynolds, St. Francis, and St. Genevieve. So please, as I said, be mindful of the skies and make sure that you're in a position to protect yourself if the weather does decide to get more rowdy than it is currently right now. Lots of people reporting very windy situations out west and northwest. When I am looking through the news articles that pop up and I see children being involved in these crimes, those are usually the ones that cut through all of the noise to me more. But I mean, it's not as though any one life is more valuable than another. And you would think that in a city that is as diverse as St. Louis, that we should be identifying lives that matter, that everybody's life should be worthy of protection. And the politics surrounding this, there's Black Lives Matter, there's Blue Lives Matter, there's All Lives Matter. Those all, to me, are very, very handy on a pamphlet or on a corner protest. I don't know what the end result of any of those political mentalities are. You're a former federal prosecutor. What's a real thing that St. Louisans can do, can push for, can ask for to make a change?
First of all, elections matter. Wherever in the country these Soros-funded prosecutors have gotten elected, we've seen the same thing, which is hardened criminals getting let out on bail to commit more crimes and then, not being punished at nearly how they should be. And again, if you don't prosecute violent crime, you get more violent crime. You just issued a tornado watch. Well, we've had a tornado of violent crime going through this city for the better part of a decade now, and there has not been the political will to address it until really very recently, when we've started to see crime spill from underprivileged communities to tonier, nicer areas. We've seen carjackings and murders in St. Charles County, out in West St. Louis County. And finally, people are starting to wake up to the reality that this is a real problem. It affects all of us, and it's a human tragedy that if our political leaders don't step up to address, is just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse.
We discussed this one other time when you were in studio with us. Ron DeSantis benched that prosecutor in Florida because essentially this prosecutor was picking and choosing what laws he wants to enforce. That's not, as I understand it, the right of the prosecutor. You have the law is made, the prosecutor enforces that law, prosecutes that law. Can the AG, can the governor, anybody locally, can anybody do anything about removing Kim Gardner?
The state legislature has a bill in front of it right now that would create a special counsel's office specifically to prosecute violent crime here in St. Louis. They could pass that bill with an emergency clause tomorrow. The governor could sign it tomorrow, and we could be back to busting criminals by next week. But so far, there just hasn't been the political will to do this. As you said before, Kim Gardner is shouting and screaming that nobody should be pointing fingers because she knows that she's largely to blame. I point my finger at her, but I also point my finger at the political leadership in this state that's allowed this situation to go on for far too long. It's time to take action. Otherwise, we're not going to have a city left. We're not going to have a state left.
What is that? If that bill is in front of the legislature, what would that bill effectively do, and why would anybody hesitate to vote for it?
It would set up a special counsel's office empowered to prosecute violent crime in places like St. Louis where the local prosecutors aren't getting the job done.
Why is that not an obvious pass and go?
I think there are some in the legislature who feel very strongly about, quote unquote, local control, that it's not right for the state to be dictating crime policy in the city of St. Louis.
They do it with schools. I mean, in the state of Illinois, at least I can think of school districts that are failing school districts. They take that over. Maybe it's different in Missouri, but not that the state really does much of a better job at it, but I mean,
I think the crazier thing, frankly, than the state coming in and looking at violent crime here is for a few tens of thousands of radical progressives in the city of St. Louis who elected Kim Gardner in the first place, effectively dictating crime policy for the entire state. To me, that's outrageous. That needs to end. And it's time for somebody to actually take concrete action here. We've been talking about this problem for the better part of a decade. It's not getting better. We need to stand up now, or we're not going to have a state left.
Will Scharf in studio with us right now. He's a candidate for Missouri Attorney General. He's a former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Missouri. Would you be able to stay for another segment?
I'll stay as long as y'all want to have me.
Let's take a quick break, and I've got more questions for you, more questions coming in from the audience. If you want to join us, if you have a question you would like to ask Will, I'd love to hear it in the comments on the YouTube live broadcast. You go to the Annie Frey YouTube channel. You'll see we are broadcasting live right there, right now. We'll be back in a minute.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Everywhere I go, they be like, oh, so bad. Everywhere I go, they be like, oh, so bad.
If you are looking to find a home on the Illinois side of the river and you need somebody to help guide you, Jen Teske with RE/MAX Alliance, She's your solution. You're going to enjoy the process of partnering with Jen Teskey to find your dream home. She is especially well equipped in the Edwardsville, Glen Carbon, Maryville, Troy, Collinsville area in the Metro East. But let's talk about selling your home. Let's talk about the conversation that starts and you're thinking, gosh, I don't know that now is really the best time to be listing our home. Talk to Jen Teskey about it because she's got a list of buyers right now who don't have homes who are looking for maybe yours. She will show you how to maximize your home to get the best benefit out of it, the best sale price, and to make sure that you're not investing money into fixing that home up that you don't need to, that's not going to give you the ROI that you expect to get when you do invest in your home to sell it. She is an expert on all things buying and selling. She's fun. She'll give you the straight truth, and you won't be angry when you're hearing it because you know that she's got what it takes to get the job done. Give her a call or text her right now at 618-541-1010. That's 618-541-1010. Jen Teskey with RE/MAX Alliance at 618-541-1010.
With inflation on the rise, you may be charging more to your credit card. But be careful. That increased debt can cause your credit score to suffer.
Don't get stuck with a low credit score and a mountain of high-interest credit card debt. Call Golden Oak Lending now.
Refinance with our low rates to wipe out your high-interest credit card debt and put extra cash in your pocket. Call 314-567-GOLD.
Golden Oak Landing, cured my blues.
NMLS 114937.
According to Forbes, 96% of Americans, 96%, lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. Learn how you could avoid this in a one-night adult education class. Retirement Planning 101, held at colleges and universities throughout Greater St. Louis. In just 3 hours, you'll benefit from decades of financial planning experience about Social Security, taxes, healthcare and Medicare, investing for income, and so much more. These classes are hosted by financial and tax architects, your retirement professors. If you've saved at least $300,000 for retirement, register now by calling 314-626-8817. You pay zero tuition if you call today. So call 314-626-8817. 314-626-8817.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they were very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Hi, Chad Hansen from Hansen's Tree Service. Much like the human body, trees require a specific combination of nutrients to thrive. Our certified arborists can come to your property and prescribe the ideal treatment to ensure your trees and plants thrive this coming season. Check us out today at hansenstree.com and take advantage of our winter savings.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Bundle up and save 20% on new HVAC system and attic insulation. To make your home more energy efficient and to get into your comfort zone, visit aircomfortservice.com.
You're listening to award-winning, thought-provoking talk. You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk.
Your home for conservative talk.
On the air for over 20 years. You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
Who's got the claws in you, my friend? Into your heart beat again. Sweet like honey to my soul. Sweet for you, I'm so lost.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. We're glad that you're here with us. If you're in the St. Louis area, the bi-state region, we expect some kind of nasty weather coming in the area anytime soon. What? Oh, okay. And I just want you to make sure that you're aware of that. If we have any news to deliver to you throughout the course of the show, we will be certain to prioritize that as we move through the different topics of the day. We have Will Scharf in studio with us right now. He is a candidate for Missouri Attorney General, former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Missouri. And you're in here talking about the crime in St. Louis. Tell me, Will, about your experience prosecuting crime. I mean, we've discussed a lot about the volleyball player who has lost her legs because a criminal was out and about when they shouldn't have been. But how do you have a personal connection to what's going on here in St. Louis?
Yeah, so thanks a lot for that, Annie. I spent, until this last November, I was an assistant U.S. attorney attached to the Violent Crime Unit here in the Eastern District of Missouri, which covers the greater St. Louis area and really the whole eastern half of the state. In that capacity, I led prosecution of over 100 federal felony cases, mostly involving guns and violence, bank robberies, carjackings, armed robberies, a lot of felons in possession of firearms. And I guess the key takeaway, and something that I think is just really important to note, especially in light of this case that we had over the weekend, is that most violent criminals, most felons, they don't just commit one crime and then go back to law-abiding lives. In a vast, vast majority of cases, these are people who are leading lives of criminality, who are going out and committing crime after crime after crime after crime. And so when you get a case like this one, where the perpetrator, this guy Daniel Riley, is let out on bail for a violent crime and is allowed to run the streets really with no restrictions, with no supervision for a period of 2.5 years, I promise you, he was going out and committing other crimes. So the fact that Kim Gardner's office didn't get him into custody, the fact that Kim Gardner's office didn't take any concrete steps to make sure that he was being held, there are other victims behind this guy, I promise you. And we may not be reading about them on the front page of the newspaper. We may not be seeing their names on television. But behind each case like this is just a string of human tragedy and disaster. So I guess the key takeaway for me is when we talk about violent crime, each criminal you pull off the streets, you're saving multiple lives, and you're saving, in most cases, many families, like the Edmondson family, from having to deal with the kind of tragedy that they're now dealing with their daughter. In terms of dealing with the problem we have here in St. Louis, we need to be arresting and prosecuting more violent criminals. The circuit attorney's office is failing. There are numerous avenues the state could take, including appointing a special counsel, removing Kim Gardner from office, giving the attorney general's office power to prosecute crimes here, or under Schmidt, under now Senator Schmidt, the attorney general's office put prosecutors into my former office, the Eastern District of Missouri, specifically to prosecute violent crime. The governor could be surging highway patrol to the streets of St. Louis to help take the pressure off the drastically undermanned and underfunded St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. In my experience working in the policy space, there are always solutions if you have the political will to take concrete steps to deal with the problems you have in front of you. And what we've seen consistently in this city, in this state, is a lack of the political will to deal with tough problems.
So let's talk about that then. Who's got that lack of political will right now?
I think the buck stops in the city with Tashara Jones, who hasn't taken concrete steps to hem in Kim and to get that office where it needs to be. What rights
does she have as the mayor? What can she do?
I think she's the mayor. I think if she told Kim to get her act in order, if she threatened to withhold political support in this next election, if she put up a candidate to run against Kim, I think she'd have a real influence there. She also still controls the police department. The SLMPD ultimately answers to the mayor. And I with her defund the police agenda, with the fact that she pulled millions of dollars out of the SLMPD budget, she's sending a clear message or at least was sending a clear message until very recently, that tackling the crime problem in this city is not her first priority.
Yeah, well, okay, so Tashara Jones, the mayor, that's the first step. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Who else lacks the political will? If it's not, I mean, are all the eggs in the Tashara Jones basket, or what next?
I think it's long past time for the Missouri legislature to step in and do something, whether it's appointing a special counsel, which is what they're proposing now, or giving the Attorney General's office the authority to prosecute violent crimes in cities like St. Louis.
Has that happened in any other states? Are there any other examples of this, or how?
There are other states where the Attorney General has broader authority to bring primary prosecutions. That's something we haven't done here in Missouri traditionally because of concerns over local control. But where local control yields the kinds of results that we're seeing in St. Louis and Kansas City and Springfield and Columbia, it's long overdue.
So talk to me, as somebody who is a former federal prosecutor right here in the Eastern District of Missouri, what it takes to put together a prosecution and what it takes. I mean, from the moment the crime is committed and there's a victim identified, who's involved in that process? Whose lives are on the line in that process? Who puts the work and the effort into creating a case that ultimately gets left in the hands of Kim Gardner to say,
So, you have law enforcement officers who are the first to respond. It's law enforcement officers who build out these investigations, who build cases that are ready for prosecution. Then they go to the circuit attorney's office more often than not, ask for a warrant, oftentimes get denied for no good reason. And then all too often they see their cases get mishandled and dropped by Kim's office, which is understrength, poorly managed, and just a train wreck of a local prosecutor's office. If I'm an SLMPD officer and I'm risking my life night after night chasing bad guys down dark alleys, and then seeing those bad guys who I've arrested being cut loose on bond or cut loose without charges issued, I'm going to think long and hard about whether I want to keep chasing those bad guys down dark alleys. And it only takes a little bit of that pulling back. We used to call it the Ferguson effect. It only takes a little bit of police officers deciding to hold back. That you
think that's happened already, though?
I
How could it not? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to disparage the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. In fact, I don't think that I could respect them anymore. I mean, I revere these people. It's one thing to be a police officer in St. Charles or in a suburban area that's middle class. It's as if crime doesn't come there. St. Louis crime bleeds into those areas. Every person who gets up in the morning and puts on a uniform, that blue uniform, risks their lives every single day, and they know it, and their families know it. But how do you possibly, I mean, just a testament to these individuals who do this in the city of St. Louis or anywhere, put on that uniform every day and know that your efforts, you're risking your lives, you're risking the mother or father of your kid's life or the husband or wife of your spouse's life so that somebody for some political BS reason can say, we're not doing that.
A lot of them are just quitting. A lot of the best officers in the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department are choosing to go to other departments or choosing to get into different lines of work. I have one buddy who is an outstanding detective in a tough district in the city. He got a law degree, passed the bar exam, and he's now himself a prosecutor, not in St. Louis City. So you're seeing a lot of that. A lot of the people who made up the heart and soul of that police department are just deciding it's not worth it anymore. That as long as Kim Gardner's there and as long as the cases they're bringing in aren't getting prosecuted properly, it's just not worth the risk and it's not worth the headache anymore. And that's really scary. For the future of this city, that's a really scary scenario.
Yeah, we're speaking with former federal prosecutor here in Missouri, Will Scharf. The question was asked, we've discussed this before, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of clarify or relate to this as well. People want to know about, Patrick says, Annie, does the Missouri governor have the same options DeSantis has in Florida?
I don't think so. I think that the statutory authority that DeSantis used in Florida, we don't have an exact analog here, but there's a lot that the governor's office could do, whether it's surging the highway patrol into St. Louis, whether it's encouraging the legislature, getting the legislature to immediately pass a bill that would allow others to prosecute crime here so that we're not completely relying on Kim Gardner's office. I'd like to see more leadership from Governor Parson on this. I think he's been too willing to let this situation stew for a long time. And I think we're overdue for concrete action at the state level.
So, you've provided some solutions here, some people who can be held responsible. If I have somebody right now listening who is motivated the way I am to shine the spotlight on this and to implore people to get involved and do what they can, who can they put? Is it still worth it to put pressure on the mayor's office, even though we kind of assume that we know how that's going to go?
Call the mayor, call your state reps, call your state senators, call the governor, call the attorney general, call everybody. At this point, this is an all-hands-on-deck moment, and the future of our city and our state depend on it.
Yeah. And thank a police officer when you see them. Thank them for doing what they do.
Thank a cop, always.
All right. Will Scharf, we appreciate you being in here. If people want to connect with you, you have a great thread on Twitter about this issue at Will Scharf, SCHARF. People can check that out there. You are running for Attorney General. Where do you send people to go to learn more about your campaign for that if they want to check you out a little bit more?
VoteScharf.com, SCHARF. Appreciate the time, Annie. Thank you.
Of course. So we're going to take a quick break now, and when we return in the 1 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to Deroy Murdock, and we're going to discuss San Francisco. They have a reparations, what Deroy Murdock calls a scheme. See if you agree with that when we come back. And Joe Concha, very excited to bring Joe back on the show at 1:25. We're going to talk to him about all of these topics that have been boiling up. The president's trip across the ocean to talk in Poland, to visit Ukraine. How's that all going for this country? Is the president where he needs to be? Is he representing who he needs to be? Some of you might think yes. Many of you might think no. Joe Concha reacts at 1:25. And we'll do a Wiggins America at 1:45 as well. Don't go away.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
Did you know the IRS is a super creditor? Hi, I'm Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. The IRS is the only creditor that can create a bill for you without your permission, then drop the hammer and aggressively collect it by wiping out your bank account, seizing your assets, and levying your wages. No other creditor can do that, and this can all happen without a court approval. If you owe back taxes, you need to be prepared to face the super creditor. Don't just sit back and take it. Fight back. At the Lance Drury Law Firm, we know how to use the laws to your advantage and go toe-to-toe with the IRS. Our office is located right here in St. Louis. Contact the Lance Drury Law Firm today for a free consultation with me, or visit us at lancedrurylaw.com or call 314-260-6120. That's 314-260-6120 to get started.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
CAJonesInc.com is the website. If you were looking to build a home on the east side of the river, I want you to consider what CAJonesInc.com can do for you. A wonderful place to build out your dream home. You can go to CAJonesInc.com, and they have a really, really cool tool there that allows you to look at, like, here's the color of the roof that I would like to have. Here's the color of the shutters that I would like to have with this particular layout. It's all there on their website and super simple to use. They have the largest inventory of new construction homes for sale as well. They offer solar to new and existing homes. If you're curious about that, reach out to CA Jones. Receive an instantaneous payback on your solar savings that could save save you thousands on a 4.2 kilowatt solar system. They're also offering a solar builder pack that includes great opportunities for you to save on your energy in the future. They are proud military supporters and first responder supporters, offering veterans, active, and first responder specials on new homes, solar, and remodel. Learn more online at cajonesinc.com.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio. 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Derailment, fallout. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. 3 weeks since the disaster that released toxic salon owner Toma Rhodes tells Fox Business it's still impacting her business.
My clients obviously aren't worried about drinking the water. We have bottled water for them. They're worried about the water being used on them.
State and federal officials say ongoing tests still show the air and water are safe. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who's faced criticism for not visiting the site, now plans to be in the town tomorrow. Former President Trump paying a visit today. More than 60 million Americans are under winter weather alerts from the latest storm system to cross the country, from Montana to Maine.
Storm totals are now less than previously predicted, but the National Weather Service is still looking ahead to 11 to 16 additional inches of snow here in the Twin Cities. Blizzard and storm warnings remain in effect, and people here are still being told to hunker down and avoid travel.
Fox Weather's Max Gordon in Minneapolis. An Arizona rancher charged in the death of a migrant stays locked up on $1 million bond after a preliminary hearing in Santa Cruz County Court for 73-year-old George Kelly.
He's accused of murdering a Mexican national last month on his Arizona ranch on the U.S. border near Nogales, where he says he witnessed camouflaged trespassers armed with rifles, that he fired one warning shot. His lawyer says the body of an illegal immigrant wearing a radio and tactical boots was later found.
They're sending a message to anybody else who might be defending his or her own property that if you defend your property against us, you will be arrested.
She maintains her client did not shoot the man and that he is innocent. Kelly's defense is being fueled by the Give, Send, Go fundraising platform.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. During today's hearing, the judge did make one change from cash to a surety bond. America is listening to Fox News.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. Hungry kids get sick more often and can struggle in school. It can be harder for them to focus and learn. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures.
We want to ensure that all of our kids have healthy meals every day.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping feed our kids.
To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Still some waves of rain and a couple of thunderstorms going through our Wednesday afternoon. Big deal for everybody. Strong gusty winds and quite mild. 68 for the high, though, with the wind. Not feeling quite that warm. Tonight, clearing skies, windy and 52. On Thursday, sunny, windy, 59 in the morning. Into the 40s Thursday afternoon and a fall to 22 Thursday night. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
97.1 FM Talk. You're here because you clearly have a refined palate. St. Louis is home for conservative talk. This is 97.1 FM Talk.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
If you need a new bath or shower in the new year, call my friends at Bath Fitter of St. Louis. Mark Cox here. We love our new shower and tub enclosure. It looks fantastic. No demolition, no mess, and a lifetime guarantee. Right now, they're having a sale for 20% off up to $1,000 or zero interest until 2028. That's 5 years. Call 636-338-1648. That's 636-338-1648. Bath Fitter of St. Louis.
Hi, this is Brian with Velocity Home Buyers, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-782-3333. I can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. I buy houses in any condition and any price range in the St. Louis area. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy more. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that needs updating, but you don't have the time or money for it? Great, because I love buying outdated houses. I buy vacant houses, job relocation houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at 314-782-3333. That's 314-782-3333.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
When children were being fatally injured by window blind cords, Honor Law took on the manufacturers to have dangerous cords banned.
Call Onder Law Personal Injury Lawyers at 314 or 618 $9000000.
Hey, it's Annie. Get your conceal and carry with the certified experts at STS Armory. From beginners and ladies only to pepper spray, STS Armory has the class for you. Call 618-931-GUNS or stop by in Pontoon Beach at the corner of Highway 111 and South Drive.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. We appreciate you being here with us on quite a rowdy weather afternoon. We are following as alerts continue to come into the area. We encourage you to stay close to us here and to your phone as you get these alerts as they continue to come in. There's a tornado warning in St. Charles County right now till 1:30 p.m. It's another 23 minutes from right now, and we will have those updates for you as they come. So we'll break into coverage if the need arises. So in St. Charles County right now, a tornado warning until 1:30 p.m. Please be advised. Please seek shelter if you are in that area or maybe just east of that area. Prepare for that to come your way. This weather, so interesting weather day across the entire country. And we here in St. Louis need to make sure that we're prepared and being safe. Seek shelter if you are in that St. Charles area. We are going to get to our guest. We're going to speak with now our friend Deroy Murdock, a nationally syndicated columnist, Fox News contributor. Deroy, we got a little bit of rowdy weather around us right now, so I'm trying to keep everybody updated while we have these conversations, but we'll have the show go on. Thanks for being back with us.
Manny, great to be with you, and good luck with the rowdy weather, as you call it.
Yeah.
Hope everyone stays nice and calm.
Yes, I agree with that. You know, we spent in the first hour talking with a gentleman named Will Scharf. He is a former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Missouri. And in St. Louis, we've had a rash of crime break out here recently. There's crime all the time. There was a young volleyball player, 14, in town from Tennessee, who was struck by a car, pinned. She is losing her legs. And she is yet again one of those individuals who was harmed or hurt by somebody who was not in jail like they should have been, a repeat offender. we have this problem in St. Louis, and you've written a piece for Newsmax kind of drawing attention to San Francisco and some of the efforts that they are making there. Talk to me about this consistency across the country with these blue cities and crime and how the political reaction generally isn't solving the problem.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm very sorry to hear about this volleyball player who came to your city or community wanting to compete and have a great time and is now going back with two legs missing or lower legs missing. My God, what a horror. And so often we find in these cases that the perpetrators, either murderers, hit-and-run drivers, people who engage in whatever kind of mayhem it is, either they are people who are legal aliens who should have been stopped at the border, or the repeat offenders who should be spending time in jail instead of being let back out on the street to continue their criminal careers without interruption, and they go and either rob or rape or kill yet another victim because they people like often funded by George Gascon, people like I meant George Soros, including people like George Gascon in L.A., Kim Foxx in Chicago. We've got Dalvin Bragg here in New York. You've got is it Kim? I always forget her name.
Kim Foxx, yeah.
Kim Foxx, that's right, Kim Foxx, et cetera, and folks like this who. Their idea is that the criminal justice system is a manifestation of white nationalism. It's all based on white supremacy, and the sooner people can be moved out of the justice system and put back on the street, the better. And rather than respond to that sort of merciful treatment by making themselves better, a lot of these people just go back and continue the mayhem. And you get people like this poor young lady who came to your town to play volleyball, going back as just a piece of her former self and will have to spend the rest of her life, I assume, in a wheelchair or walking around with fake legs and crutches and all this sort of thing. And these people never seem to look back and say, this is out of control and this has led to a huge increase in crime and in carnage, so maybe we need to dial this back. They just seem to step on the accelerator, off they go. And in terms of the political response, you'd think that you would see mayors and city councils of Democrat cities try to taper off on this sort of thing, and instead they ignore it and do things like what they're doing in San Francisco, which is pushing slavery reparations. They're hot and bothered about that. You may have heard a few weeks ago, they said the proposal was $5 million per black recipient in San Francisco. The former head of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, a man named Shemin Walton, who's now a member of the Board of Supervisors, his response was that $5 million, that's nothing. He called that a, quote, very minuscule, unquote, amount of money, and he thinks it should be even higher than $5 million. So rather than spending time on trying to clean up the crime mess in San Francisco, they're spending time on this, fantasy of giving $5 million or more to every black San Franciscan who can claim that his or her ancestors were victims of slavery in this country back in the 19th, 18th, or 17th centuries.
I mean, it's impossible to, and I was watching, this weekend, I was out of town in Peoria, actually, Illinois, which is a pretty downtrodden city as well, very, very impoverished in many areas. And we had to go through those areas in order to get to the school where this tournament was. And it strikes me how consistent the politics are surrounding the cities, the way they're run, the way they're managed. And, you hear something about reparations, you sit and you listen to people talk about the plight of the past. I don't think that there's any benefit in denying that our country has gone through some very difficult times and that the white experience and the black experience in America has been different. But there's a complete discounting between when slavery existed and what has been done in the United States in order to get us to where we are now. Maybe there's still work to do, but does the idea of a check, is that going to absolve what was done to black people in America? Is that going to make people who feel as though they have been, historically disenfranchised, generationally disenfranchised? I just don't understand how a check would end it. I feel like the hurt feelings that may exist now would still exist after that check was cashed.
I tend to think that's true. That all right, here's your check for $5 million. Does that take care of it? My guess is people are going to say, "Great, thanks for the check for $5 million. We want more." And by the way, if let's say people still need public assistance after that, I think $5 million, you ought to be able to take care of yourself after that. But is this the complete end of any interest in taking care of people in urban areas? Is this the end of support for kids who need to learn in schools where they're not actually getting any skills of any value or use to them? I wouldn't be surprised if in fact, we ever pursue this reparations policy, and my guess is it won't because of all the difficult questions and ridiculous expenses we're talking about. But if it does happen, there's very likely to be a sense on the part of certainly white folks and white politicians, all right, well, you guys got yours, we're even by, and that's it. And, is that necessarily a good thing? So, I agree with you on the point you made earlier. We are behaving, or a lot of people who are pushing this sort of stuff, are acting as if we're 1866. Slaves had just been emancipated. We had to make up for all the damage done during slavery. This all ended 157 years ago. And the people who push this don't really like to focus on the fact that we had a black president of the United States in this country, not for 4 years, but for 8 years. He was elected comfortably and then reelected comfortably. We right now have a black vice president of the United States. The head of the House Democrats, who at some point, if they have a majority again, will be Speaker of the House, is Hakeem Jeffries, a black man from New York City. You've got, when the Democrats were in charge, you had black folks heading up multiple House committees. You've got black mayors, you've got black city council chiefs, police chiefs, not to mention people in the private sector who are succeeding. So this is all based on the idea that black folks are just sitting around, suffering, ready to have Jim Crow come and beat the hell out of us, when in fact we've had, certainly since 1965 and even before that, a history of black people succeeding in business and academy and science and the arts, et cetera. And this endless screaming for reparations, this kind of, if you will, whitewashes, no pun intended, all the black achievement we've had in this country. And I think we should focus on that and then try to think, how can we have even more black success rather than just talk about black failure, black victimhood, and just sort of endlessly feeling sorry for ourselves.
Deroy Murdock with us right now. He's a nationally syndicated columnist, Fox News contributor, joins us each week. I want to look at these situations and respect the idea that there are people who look at their own personal history, know that it's different than other people's personal history, and that talking about it and understanding it and acknowledging it can be beneficial because that's history. Learning about our history is important. But I feel as though between the initial, we talked a lot about the Proud Family, that Disney show that they have an episode called Juneteenth. Mm-hmm. And then I was watching this weekend because I was stuck in my room with a sleeping baby in a hotel and I couldn't get out, and I ended up watching MSNBC Black. Apparently that's a thing for February. And they were doing a documentary that was walking through the South and kind of two gentlemen who are black and talking to some white people about history and all of the kind of stereotypical things that you would expect a white person in that type of context to say. Those two episodes, the Proud Family one from Disney and the MSNBC Black documentary that the name escapes me now, both indicated as an understood foundational fact of where we are today that white people don't acknowledge that slavery existed.
Amazing.
And that's so harmful to ever fixing anything, is to point at white people and say, well, the white understanding is that slavery didn't exist. Do you ever hear that in these conversations, or when people are having racial discussions about reparations like you wrote about in your Newsmax, that there's just a complete foundational misunderstanding about what Americans know about this country?
I think that's completely wrong. Look, you could make the argument, maybe we need to talk about slavery more or study it more or have more books printed about it, whatever you want. Look, when I was growing up, and I'm a little older than you are, but we had a TV show on, I think it was on ABC, called Roots. It ran for a whole week. It was based on Alex Haley's story of his black man and the story of his family from slavery onward. It was on air for an entire week, I think Monday through Friday, kind of a mini-series. It dominated the networks. Everybody watched it. It was cascaded with, it had a cascade of Emmys fall upon it afterwards, and it deservedly so. It was a fantastic program. We've had movies like Tubman. We had 7 Years a Slave, which I think won Best Picture. We've had TV shows. We've had books. We focus on slavery all the time. There's a whole museum of African-American history, Smithsonian Museum, which opened several years ago. It's a very good museum. I visited a couple years ago. It's on the mall right there by the Museum of Modern Art, Museum of Art, and the rest of the Smithsonian. The idea that American people, white people, won't acknowledge slavery is garbage. You can say, let's not forget about it. Let's keep focusing on it. That's a perfectly legitimate argument. But the idea that white people are trying to cover this up and refuse to acknowledge it is just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know anybody left, middle, right who says, "Oh, slavery, no, that never took place. There's never any slavery in America." I think anybody, black, white, or otherwise, believes that. And anybody who's peddling that sort of thing is just lying, lying, lying to the American people, if not to themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I was shocked. I saw it in that Disney episode that I sat down and watched the whole thing, and I was taken aback by it. And then when I saw it again in this news documentary, I thought, is this like a thing that's out there that I'm like a blind spot that I had, that the understanding of racism in this country is so different between different political parties that they think that the other side doesn't even acknowledge it. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about, we've got a widening Republican presidential race right now. Nikki Haley is in. We watched what Don Lemon had to say about Nikki Haley. Unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And now Vivek Ramaswamy is in there. I mean, there's a diverse group of people running for the presidency on the Republican side. And all I hear about, the potential of Tim Scott getting in, all I hear are the discussions about skin color and gender and age from the left. And I just thought I'd give you a chance to react to who the Republicans have in the fight right now, what they're fighting for, and how the left seems to be reacting.
Yeah, well, this is something here from the left that, the Republican Party is just a lily-white organization, no minorities allowed. So then we've got, as you mentioned, Nikki Haley of Indian background, Vivek Ramaswamy, not an easy name to say, also East Indian background. Tim Scott may jump into this race. Who knows if Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio might get in? Who knows? They're Hispanics, et cetera. But then they're dismissed. Oh, they're tokens. They don't count. So no matter what you do, if you have an all-white party, they complain. If you have a party with faces that are not white, then, well, they don't count. There's no way to satisfy these people. You could have an all-black Republican Party or 5 different black people running for president without Trump or DeSantis running, and they'd say, well, they're not really black. The left has the race card. That's all they've got. They play it nonstop. They can't put it down. And they know if they lose it, they've got nothing. They can't run the economy. They can't run on public safety. As of this terrible train wreck and chemical explosion a few weeks ago, I don't think they can run on the environment. They destroy everything they touch. So all they've got is the race card. They're going to keep playing that on and on and on because that's all they have to offer. And that's a very sad comment indeed.
Well, we always like having these conversations with you because the substance is always there. It's very annoying and frustrating to hear these people criticize Nikki Haley for her age as a woman and different people for their different race and what they're allowed to do. But you always cut through that and get straight to the facts. That's why we appreciate you, Deroy. Thanks for being back with us.
Annie, great. And good luck with the rowdy weather today.
Thank you very much. It's headed this way. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
So as he mentioned there is a tornado warning in St. Charles County till 1:30 this afternoon. So we're about 10 minutes away from at least that initial warning that I received is going to expire. A lot of people in the YouTube live chat right now commenting on their various locations around the bi-state and reacting to what their experiences are. So if you would like to join that conversation on a super ground level, you can go to the Annie Frey YouTube channel there and join that conversation. Today's YouTube live chat poll: when should children have access to their own cell phone? Anytime when parent approved, age 13, age 16, or age 18. We're going to talk about this in the 2 o'clock hour, and I really, really want you to be there for that conversation because there's a horrific story that needs to be talked about, and I am, as a mother, imploring you to listen to this conversation at 2 o'clock. If you are a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you're an aunt, if you're an uncle, you need to hear this conversation, and this cell phone usage thing kind of fits in among that conversation. So go vote and leave us your comments as to why you voted the way you did. When we return, Joe Concha on the show with us and an update on the weather situation as it continues to progress into the listening area. We will keep you updated. We'll keep you posted. We'll be right back.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Michael's Flooring Outlet, your one-stop shop for your flooring needs, big or small. Michael's Flooring Outlet can absolutely help you go through the process of selecting the flooring that's the best for your scenario and making you feel very, very good and confident about the value you're getting for your dollar. Working with Michael's Flooring Outlet, you are going to walk through the different aspects of technology and flooring that they're experts at. There's no better customer sales staff in the St. Louis area than you're going to find at Michael's. That's what they do. They sell flooring. There's a lot of different places you can buy flooring. Many times it's in the same places where you could buy anything that has to do with your home, plumbing fixtures, lumber, so on and so forth. Experts in flooring, Michael's Flooring Outlet. The website is igotfloored.com. Go to igotfloored.com and shop through their carpet, their hardwood, their laminate, their tile. If you're looking for a specific brand, if you're shopping the Mohawk Smart Strand line of carpeting, if you're looking for the Revwood Tech Plus line of flooring. It's right there at Michael's Flooring Outlet, and many, many more options available to you. Online at igotfloored.com.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Plantar fasciitis feels like pointed, sharp pain, very intense. I had instability. I was so frustrated. I didn't know what to do. And I was driving past the Good Feet store. I mean, why not? Give it a try. They wanted to make sure they fit me with the right thing. They brought out several different arch supports and gave me the opportunity to try them in shoes and walk around with them until they found the perfect ones. And the Good Feet arch supports were what gave me the relief I needed.
Call 314-317-9494 or visit one of our 2 locations on Olive, west of I-270 in the Plaza with Subway, or in Shiloh, Illinois, across from Deerberg's.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Individual results may vary. Consult your physician for medical conditions. Visit the website goodfeetstlewis.com. Come in and try the Good Feet feeling today. Comfort you might have been missing for years. Good Feet products are proudly made in the USA.
Hi, Chris Saraceno for the Bartolino's family of restaurants, where we proudly support our first responders and all those who serve and protect our community. And thank you, our loyal guest, for the opportunity to serve you for over a half century. I'd like to invite you to enjoy one of our 4 restaurants: Bartolino's South on South Lindbergh, Bartolino's Osteria at Hampton and 44, Chris's Pancake and Dining at the corner of Watson and Southwest, and Chris is at the Dock at downtown on Tucker Boulevard. Experience the Bartolino tradition, where our family awaits to serve you.
Hi, this is Thomas Helbig with the Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw, Tom's nephew. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is in linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online at retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review. Learn the strategies that have helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 36 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online at retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
This is Tom Ackerman. McKelvey Homes was founded in 1898, celebrating its 125th anniversary this year. They are taking $18,980 off homes through the month of March and making a donation of $1,898, $1898, to Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital for every house sold. McKelvey Homes. Online at McKelveyHomes.com. That's McKelveyHomes.com.
The Mark Reardon Show.
Hey, go figure. The St. Louis Prosecutor's Office, Kim Gardner, is the focus of questions relating to a terrible tragedy in downtown St. Louis. That's unique. We'll talk about it Wednesday afternoon.
Weekdays from 3 to 6.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show.
Oh, what you know, Joe? I don't know nothing. What you know, Joe?
Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Ain't conniving, just ain't jiving. I don't know.
Welcome back to The Annie Frey Show. We're glad you're here with us. Joe Biden, I don't know, is he coming home? I've seen the GIF on social media 100 times. He tripped going up the stairs again to get back on the airplane. And I hope he's okay. Joe Biden across the Atlantic in Europe trying to go on a victory tour. I'm not even 100% sure what it all is. I know where he's not, and that's Ohio. I guess that stuff doesn't matter And I guess if Ohio's a red state he doesn't visit, I don't even understand. I wonder what Joe Concha thinks about it. He wrote a book on Joe Biden. It's called Come On, Man, The Truth About Joe Biden's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Presidency. And it's amazing that you could write a whole book on that. And we weren't even halfway through, Joe, when you published that book. So much content for you to use.
Oh, it wrote itself. And I already have I signed with HarperCollins to do a second book, Annie. And
are you hoping for a re-election? Is this money in your pocket if he gets reelected? Man, I got to think.
Oh, no, not so much that. I'll be done with it. It'll be released well before 2024, actually. I think October of 2023 it's going to come out. So would I root for re-election? No. I mean, for the good of the country, I couldn't in good conscience do that. And I have a feeling whoever the next president is, there's always something to write about, is what I'm learning.
Yeah.
So the second book is called Not Your Daddy's Donkeys, and it's all about how this is not the Democratic Party that maybe your dad grew up with or even we grew up with, right? I mean, you think of John F. Kennedy, and he was for a strong military and cutting taxes. You think about Jimmy Carter, who was pro-life. I mean, picture a pro-life Democrat, particularly a presidential one. So that's interesting. And then obviously Bill Clinton, the era of big government is over, and he worked with Newt Gingrich to pass a balanced budget amendment and welfare reform, and you can never, ever see that happening with the current Democratic Party now. Now, to answer your question, as far as East Palestine is concerned, Pete Buttigieg is finally going there tomorrow. That's nearly 3 weeks after this happened. It took him 10 days to even acknowledge that anything had happened as far as a toxic train derailment that released 4 different cancer-causing chemicals into the air. And my conclusion in this book that I'm kind of coming to is that Democrats used to be the party of the little guy, right? And they would support people like those in East Palestine, the people that aren't powerful to protect themselves and get the support they need from their government. Well, Democrats are here to help. Now they're the party of big city elites, and they're run by people like Pete Buttigieg, who couldn't be any more of an elitist or a narcissist if he tried. So East Palestine, you look it up, their household median income is $44,000 a year. I think in the U.S. the average is $70,000. These are poor, lower middle class to lower class people. They have hundreds of people living below the poverty line. All right. And here we have a president and a president and a transportation secretary, and even the EPA was late to the game as far as getting out there, that simply just don't seem to care about them. And even after this is done, right, and the sickness and the nausea and the headaches go away, the property values are done, right? It's like buying property in Chernobyl. I know it's not the same thing in terms of scale, but I'm saying once you get that impression that this is not a safe place to live, that it's a polluted place to live, people don't want to go there. They even had a basketball tournament a couple of days ago. They had to cancel. That would have brought $40,000 into the high school, like a big regional tournament, because none of the other teams wanted to go there because they thought they'd get sick. So that's where we are at this point. The juxtaposition is that you have the former President Trump, who was there today, and Joe Biden giving hundreds of millions of dollars to Ukraine, where we're not told if there's any strategy around this. Are we just throwing money at the problem, or can we find a diplomatic solution somehow? Because once a war goes on this long, Annie, it tends to go on for years and years, and now China is involved, and you can see it coming that this is going to get much worse before it gets better.
Well, we're speaking with political columnist at The Hill, Joe Concha. He's also a Fox News contributor, and you've very well articulated what the Democrat Party is today, and look forward to your book as it gets published here soon. I'm curious, though, if you're looking at the Republican candidates right now for president. And, I'm not going to tell you to pick a candidate. I don't think anybody should pick a candidate right now. I think they should all have to earn our votes again. That's how I think the process should go. But I'm looking at the candidates that are lining up right now, and a lot of the suspected ones. Apparently, Tim Scott's doing a listening tour in Iowa, which is just quite a headline. And I'm thinking, it's a pretty diverse group of people. This should be kind of Mecca here for the Democratic left. But what the left has been saying, at least publicly in the press and everything, the most racist, sexist, ageist, misogynistic things about these candidates. And it's like, worse than being all of those things I just listed is being a Republican. What do you think about the candidates that are out there so far?
Oh, especially if you're a Republican woman of color, then that's a big no-no, right?
Right.
Nikki Haley, she's betraying her race, and she doesn't use her real name, says Sonny Hostin, the girl who doesn't use her real name. It's fascinating. Look, this is how the race goes, okay? Donald Trump has half the pie right now. He has, as you know, a very loyal core base that will not leave them unless they have a viable alternative, and Trump loses fair and square. And the only viable alternative for them, I think, is Ron DeSantis, right? And you see the president attacking DeSantis with some ridiculous things. I know that he kind of gets out there sometime. He accused Ted Cruz once, I think, of his dad, assassinating JFK. And we all kind of laughed about that. but here he's saying that Florida was closed far too long. You're like, wait a minute. DeSantis got killed for reopening. Remember Death Santis? They had that guy dressed as a Grim Reaper on Florida beaches.
I literally drove to Florida on June 3rd because that was the day they opened up, and I said, peace out, Illinois. I am out of here. We're going on vacation. Of course he opened right up.
Years. So that's a weird charge, right? And then he implied that DeSantis was a groomer of young women. He shows a picture of her with like some young girls from like 25 years ago, and that was ridiculous. And then what was the Truth Social post yesterday? Oh yeah, that Charlie Crist actually was a good governor.
See, kind of a stretch.
Basically saying Florida's always been fine. DeSantis isn't doing anything, and they're just not landing. I mean, you talk to people, and this doesn't have the oomph. We've seen this act before. And the charges are ridiculous. And he knows that if it comes down to Trump versus DeSantis, in other words, of all these other candidates like Haley and Scott and Pence and Pompeo, they all say, all right, I got no shot. We're going to do what everybody did with Biden back in March of 2020, drop out and get behind him. I think if it comes down to DeSantis wins, and he wins quite easily.
Do you think, Joe, that I assess everybody who gets in the race, I always assess all of the things that they could possibly benefit from that kind of platform, that spotlight. And I always kind of assume that they're not really 100% serious about actually possibly becoming the president of the United States. How are you raising your reputation or the spotlight on you because you want to fight for maybe a cabinet position or VP or something like that? Do you believe that when Vivek or some of these senators, governors, when they get in, do they all expect, I think I can win this race and I'm going to go for it?
I don't think Vivek does. I think that he's a smart guy. I saw him on Tucker Carlson last night. He has his convictions, but what lane is there, right? I mean, where's the path? And he's so young, too. I think with him, it's probably cabinet position type of thing. Or you just raise your profile to the point where you can write a lot of books, right?
That's what I'm
maybe
thinking.
Run for Senate, something else. But now you're a name and you're out there. He's going to get a lot of interview requests now that he wouldn't if he wasn't a presidential candidate. It's the Bill de Blasio rule, right? He ran. He knew he had no shot of winning. Boy, got him on TV a lot, right?
Yeah.
And who was that millionaire that ran? The creepy-looking guy. I forget. In 2020 on the Democratic side. Boy,
Bloomberg?
It's only like 3 years ago. What's that?
Was it Bloomberg?
No, not Bloomberg. Bloomberg, no.
You got to refine your creepy
he's
assertion.
a really rich guy, and but he wasn't like. But he wasn't like a Bloomberg. Bloomberg actually made his money.
He should have raised his profile just a little bit more so we could remember what his name was.
Yeah, right. Oh God, I'll look at, maybe if you go on a little monologue, I'll look it up on my phone, or maybe your producers can look it up. They could get back to us. But yeah, it's to get the name out there. Like, do I think Nikki Haley thinks she could win? No. I think in a normal year she'd probably have a decent chance. But Trump kind of takes that away from her. And as we've seen in interviews, she doesn't know how to handle the question. How do your policies differ from Trump? Because they really don't. So she can't draw a contrast. She's afraid of alienating his supporters. And she's at something like 6% in the polls. So I think, and I think Tim Scott probably has in the back of his mind vice president. I think DeSantis isn't thinking that. I think DeSantis thinks that he could win. He's getting a lot of money put behind him right now, and he's got a record to run on. When Republicans only had a little red ripple in November, he was the only one who had a true blowout victory in a state that was purple, basically, just a couple of years ago. And now it's ruby red. So that's the way I see it going at this point.
Tom Steyer?
Yeah, that's him.
Thank you to that's my producer on the horn there. I do look at the way people reacted. I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about Don Lemon before we let you go, and the way he reacted to Nikki Haley. And I'm always I'm averse to people responding to Don Lemon's statement as if there's any substance to it. People will be like, well, what about Hillary Clinton? Or what about Ruth Bader Ginsburg? They'll start listing older women who have been successful. And I feel like that gives him too much credit to even suggest that maybe his point was wrong. If the right did what Don Lemon did, if Sean Hannity or Tucker or somebody said exactly what Don Lemon did, the left would be melting about it. And Don Lemon is clearly not in his own prime, so it's kind of, or prime time anymore for that matter. What do you think that people should do when they hear Don Lemon say that? Should everybody point and call him out for what he did? Should we ignore him? How should we react?
Well, I would argue that Don Lemon never had a prime, right? I mean, Maybe on New Year's Eve when he gets drunk at 1 o'clock in the morning in New Orleans and says some stupid, like that's the only time you literally can draw viewers. But I'm all about the free market, right? So I'm not about boycotts. I think that's what the left does primarily. You had CNN media reporters calling cable operators asking that we get deplatformed because we're dangerous to the country. So I would never resort to something as activist as that. Oh, we got to shut them down. They're dangerous. I'll be quiet. Don't watch if you don't like it. More speech is better than no speech. Now, all of that said, the market right now says that nobody likes Don Lemon and nobody's watching that morning show. I mean, who thought it was a good idea to take the lowest rated primetime host who had a solo show and you take him off, you give him more airtime in the morning, and then you pair him with two other people when you know his ego is not going to be able to handle that. And we've seen it's like a weekly basis we're talking about Don Lemon, not just about the comments about Nikki Haley and age, but a week ago he made his own co-host cry, because he was mansplaining to her. He's telling producers, stop the music. I got to talk about this.
Yeah.
I got to set you straight. It's like, oh, man. It's like he's trying to get fired. So I think eventually the numbers will force the president over there, Chris Licht, who clearly has no idea what he's doing. I mean, this guy was a showrunner for Stephen Colbert. Of course, we should let him run an international news organization. I think eventually the numbers will call for a change, and Lemon being the highest paid, most visible person on there, who clearly is the problem, will get removed by CNN, but it shouldn't be from advertisers and boycotts and all this ridiculous stuff you see on social media to cancel people.
There have been some epic demises, is that a word, over on those networks that people who especially over COVID, were so arrogant in the way that they reported. They're so arrogant in the way that they talk about people who just, all these people do is disagree with them. That's their biggest sin. And they have these platforms, and there have been some epic meltdowns. I'm curious if you think that there is life after epic meltdown for any of those folks, Don Lemon potentially included.
Oh, boy. Look at Chris Cuomo, right? Who said after CNN fired him, I want to kill everybody. It's like, kill? Jeez, man.
Keep that one inside. Yeah.
So he went to News Nation, so you could say, he got a second chance. The problem is that 80,000 people are watching. I'm not exaggerating that number. 80,000 people are watching his show at night. So think about that. That's less than 2,000 people per state. So can you get to the same prominence again? No, I don't think so. And people like Brian Stelter, who was with CNN, he thought he was indispensable to the point where he could criticize his new bosses and basically say they have no idea what they're doing. Said it publicly, and it was obviously leaking to reporters, and they got rid of him. And people say, they got rid of him because of low ratings. No, they didn't, because they had a cancer within the organization, and he thought he was unfireable. Everybody is fireable. I mean, you look at Fox's primetime. Just a couple of years ago, it was Bill O'Reilly, Megyn Kelly, Greta Van Susteren, and Sean Hannity, and 3/4 of it is gone.
Yeah.
And the network still is doing fine. You know what I mean? Like Tucker stepped in and for O'Reilly, and Hannity obviously is at 9 now, and then you bring Laura at 10. It's like it hasn't missed a beat. So I think when people think they're indispensable, they're not in this business. There's plenty of talent out there, and sometimes it ends up being a better thing. And in Fox's case, they had a lot of people on the bench. I don't think CNN has that bench to replace people. That's why Don Lemon's being moved around. It's like watching the deck chairs on the Titanic get moved. That's what we're seeing at CNN at this point.
Well, we appreciate you, Joe. We always love having you on, and we always love seeing you up on Fox in our studio when you are contributing there. Look forward to talking to you again.
Always a pleasure, Andy. Thank you.
Yep, of course. We'll talk to you again soon. Joe Concha, political columnist at The Hill, Fox News contributor. I mean, if you work in media and you don't already know what your plan B is, it's time to make a plan B. Just saying. And I think he's right that what you've seen Don Lemon, the lack of success that you've seen him have in the prime time, and I'm not even in a position to kind of point and laugh at Don Lemon's career. He's been wildly successful. He and I disagree on a whole host of issues. The problem that I have with Don Lemon is not what he politically thinks. He's a mean boy. He is rude and dismissive, and he just oozes with elitism. And this is the one time where it kind of came back to bite him in the butt in a really, really big way. But this type of commentary from him about the Nikki Haley thing, that's not really like new Don Lemon. It's just maybe normal Don Lemon speak in boldface. And it's clearly a problem. I've said this on Twitter. I don't know if I've said it on the air yet, but if they end up firing him soon, it's going to be because that was part of the plan and he just sped up the process. This would be an excuse for him because Don Lemon was just being Don Lemon in that instance. And as I tweeted last night, it really warms my heart that Don Lemon being on in the morning means that he can watch Tucker Carlson at night because Tucker can't get enough. You literally cannot get enough of it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Wiggins America in studio is going to talk to you about Lyft and Uber safety tips from a website called A Girl's Guide to Cars. I can't wait to hear this. When we return, Wiggins America in studio. Just a minute.
Even see a movie show. So what you know, Joe?
This is the Annie Frey Show.
What you know, Joe?
Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
Hey, stop your squawking, just ain't talking, 'cause I don't know.
So let's talk about STS Armory. These are my experts. These are my go-tos. I don't care if you're on the Missouri side of the river or the Illinois side of the river. If you need a place to go where you can talk to people confidently and get the answers that you need about a firearm purchase that you're looking for, to acquire ammo or whatever it is that you're preparing for. Gun safes. I have purchased all of these types of things from STS Armory. They are the experts. Go say hi to Katie and Jesse. Just stop in the store and say hi to Katie and Jesse from the Annie Frey Show. They are a family-owned and operated business. They are on the corner of Highway 111 and South Drive in Pontoon Beach. Really easy to get to from 270. So if you can hop on 270, you can get to STS in a really quick amount of time. They offer classes, and this is really important for you as a new gun owner or maybe somebody who's interested in becoming a gun owner, but also if you're somebody who is experienced and you just want to learn more or to practice or to become better at drawing from concealment or carrying off body, you can get in these classes with STS Armory. Personally, as a mama, I want you to know about their classes for kids. I think it's a great thing that they offer these, talk about firearm safety, how to handle or manage firearms if that's something that you're interested in. STS Armory, they're parents themselves, and they can help you get that class scheduled today. Call them at 618-931-GUNS. That's 618-931-GUNS.
According to Forbes, 96% of Americans, 96%, lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. Learn how you could avoid this in a one-night adult education class. Retirement Planning 101, held at colleges and universities throughout Greater St. Louis. In just 3 hours, you'll benefit from decades of financial planning experience about Social Security, taxes, healthcare and Medicare, investing for income, and so much more. These classes are hosted by financial and tax architects, your retirement professors. If you've saved at least $300,000 for retirement, register now by calling 314-626-8817. You pay zero tuition if you call today. So call 314-626-8817. 314-626-8817.
If you own a home in St. Louis and you want to sell it as is without any inspections or the need to make any repairs, call Chris Buys Homes stlouis.com at 314-782-8000 and get your cash offer without any obligation, commissions, banks, or headaches. Chris buys vacant homes, inherited homes, fixer-uppers, beautiful homes, even the tenant who won't pay the rent apartment. Google us. Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis, and check out our best reviews from satisfied customers. When you sell to Chris, you decide when you want to move, according to your schedule and your terms. Go to our website, chrisbuyshomes.stlouis.com, or call Chris at 314-782-8000. That's 314-782-8000, and get the offer you've been waiting for. 314-782-8000.
Tony La Russa here. Has your loss of energy and weight gain thrown you a curveball in your relationship? If so, go see my friends over at Victory Men's Health. Discreet first-class professionals will help you hit those curves out of the park. VictoryMen'sHealth.com. That's VictoryMen'sHealth.com.
All walkers, mark down this date, Saturday, May 13th at Creve Coeur Park. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness Walk. This is Dan McLaughlin. I'm proud to be the official chairman of this event, Saturday, May 13th. To participate or be a sponsor, sign up at NAMIWalks.org/ST Louis. NAMI St. Louis, an organization of families, friends, and individuals whose lives have been affected by mental illness. Come be a part of the walk and make a difference. Sign up at NAMIWalks.org/ST T. Lewis.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is proud to support Greater St. Louis Honor Flight. Sign your veteran up for the Honor Flight today at gslhonorflight.org. And for heating services, visit aircomfortservice.com.
Celebrating 22 years as St. Louis's home for conservative talk. 97.1 FM Talk. Thanks for being a part of it.
Yeah, I'm faithful. Scratch that, baby, I'm grateful. Gotta say it's really been a while, but now I got that smile. I'm so faithful. Scratch that, baby, I'm grateful. Now you see me shine from a mile. Finally got that smile. Every day, Groundhog Day, going through motions, felt so fake. Not myself, not my best. Felt like I failed the test. But every tear has been a lesson. Rejection can be
Wiggins! Oh! Wiggins!
It's an hour later, but that's okay.
Yeah. It felt extra long since I was gone an extra day, too. So hello. Hello. I was with you in the pre-show, but then it's been
There was no
little
pre-show
bit.
today.
Oh, well, I was in here standing with you before the show, which I called the pre-show. So hi. I already said hi, but I'm saying hi again.
Okay.
So in light of last week's discussion about driverless taxis, and you guys being very reluctant to get into a car with no driver, I thought, well, would you consider that there are some safety concerns even getting into a car with a driver, with an Uber or a Lyft?
Yes, of course.
And I wanted to go through some of the top safety concerns with you to see if you are being safe when you do so, and maybe even give you some tips for doing so if you're not.
How often do you ride share, Brad?
I don't. I don't like the thought of other people driving me.
Yeah, same.
I use Ubers with my friends quite often, so
Yeah.
I will be learning something today, maybe.
I, of course, drove Uber and Lyft for quite a while. Well, and a year or so.
If you were my Uber driver, that'd be funny.
Wouldn't that be something? And I was actually still driving when I worked here, so I did have people who listened who once in a while, when I would get in, they go, oh my gosh, hi.
Wow.
So
what are some tips?
So the best, now there's some that I'm thinking, these are pretty obvious. I'm hoping that you don't do this. No, this one is check your ride. So before you get in the car, do you check to see that the car matches the car on the app? It seems as if you'd naturally do that. But some that you may not be doing, have the driver confirm your name. So
yeah, that's smart.
Before you get in, you say, who are you here to pick up? So you're not even saying your name. You're just asking the question so that
That's
they can't
a good
say,
one.
yeah, I'm here to pick. Yeah, I'm Amy. Are you here to pick up Amy? Yeah, I'm here to pick up Amy. You can't just do that. You have to go ahead and say, who are you here to pick up? Are these things obvious? Because I don't ride Uber that much.
No, so
I drive it.
You don't drive Uber now.
I did.
When
but
was the last time you drove an Uber?
2019.
Okay.
But I did. I'm looking at this from a different perspective because I don't really ride it a lot.
you're looking at it as the passenger instead of the driver, right?
Well, I'm asking you to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of my friends do ask that question before, and I've learned since they've done that I should do that as well. Usually I'm not the one with the Uber app. Someone else usually has it downloaded and will order it for us, and then they do that. I think that's a great little tip.
Number 4 is safety first. Sit in the back seat. Don't sit in the front seat. I've never had a problem with this. A lot of people sat in the front seat, but they're saying don't do that. I could see if you had a group, somebody might have to sit in the front.
It's always me.
But I've never.
If you stop and think about that, though, if you sit in the front seat, what is most people's dominant hand? It's the right hand. If somebody wanted to strike you with the right hand, hit you in the throat, whatever, use a weapon on you, that's going to be the easiest spot to get you.
Strike you with the right hand. This is why. No, it's just funny because this is why you don't ride in Ubers. Because
Right.
you're like, if
this
I need to
person
ride in this car and he goes to try to use his right hand to my throat, maybe I should sit in the back seat.
Yeah.
Or he's like, maybe I'll walk.
It's harder to reach me back there, too.
Yeah, it all goes through his mind in like 3D right before he grabs the handle of the door, he goes, "Oh, wait a minute."
It's like that.
No, it probably
scene-
is well before that.
It's like that scene from the Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. where he runs through the everything. That's what my brain goes like whenever I get in those situations.
Real question: do you do this one because the app's
G-Win
apparently?
says more prepper info from Brad. It's Uber prepping.
If you need to get away from the apocalypse, sit in the back seat. Do you share trip details with somebody outside the car? Because that apparently is very easy to do in the app.
What do you mean?
You hit share ride, and you can send your location in the ride to somebody outside the car.
I didn't know that. I
Have you
thought
ever
you
done
just
that?
meant texting someone like, "Hey, I'm taking an Uber. I'll be here in 20 minutes." And if I'm not,
no, it's part of the app.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and it's apparently really easy to do. I've, again, never seen that side of the app.
I didn't know that.
Only message or call the driver. This one seems really obvious, but I do admit some people would do it. Only message or call the driver via the app. So don't give them your personal phone number. Although people would do that once in a while. They'd say, "Hey, you know what? Instead of using the app, how about if I just give you my phone number and you come pick me up later?"
Yeah, that is sus.
Hunter says, Brad, you should just ride in the trunk. That way there's no way the driver can reach you. Can I ride back here?
Yeah.
On top of the car.
Pop the trunk.
Your
Just gonna
trunk have
get
one of
in.
those little emergency release handles inside of it.
Dan says my dad had a hell of a reach from the front seat when we were acting up. I think a lot of people can react to that.
So did my dad.
What about your Uber driver?
What about the movie Teen Wolf? Would you consider surfing on top of the car? How about this? Don't ride alone. If you're not well, have a friend ride with you until you feel better, because you're making yourself susceptible. You're in a situation where you wouldn't be able to fight back, Brad.
What do you think that they mean when they say if you're not well?
I don't know. I guess you're not feeling well. You're not
I
up
think
to...
I think I
you're
have an
drunk.
idea.
Yeah. Not if you have a cough. It's if you're under the influence or not.
I have a cough. Do you mind riding with me in my Uber so the driver doesn't attack me?
I used to work for a place that would pay for the Uber drive or taxi drive home from the holiday party if you were not in a position to drive. But I always lived in Illinois, and I'm like, if I were not in a position to drive, would I put myself in somebody else's car because I had, one too many to drink or something like that for a 30-minute drive while I'm just enough under the influence? I think not.
That was the majority of people, though. I mean, obviously, that's when people are using it more often than not. And I drove during the day a lot, but still, if you drove Friday,
Drove a lot
Saturday
of
night,
intoxicated people around during the day.
Sometimes, not always, but a lot of people going to and from work because they had DUIs or DWIs. And then Friday and Saturday nights, where you make most of your money, man, everybody that you're driving.
Of course.
That is the biggest thing that kept me from driving Uber. Was like, I don't want to have to drive somebody that may throw up in my car.
Oh, there's a big fee for that.
Yeah, you
If
do
you-
get paid well if somebody throws
There's
up in your car.
Not a fee big enough.
I tell you what, your car smells really bad sometimes too after not just those incidents,
Oh.
but if people sometimes they're smoking so much that they get in that car, it is going to smell like it for days.
There's no fee when your kids puke in your car. That's really the only thing I can relate to. And that's happened. That is the worst.
Yep.
The worst. Stick around. We're going to talk about kids and cell phone use. When we come back, we'll vote in the YouTube live chat poll. That's what it's about. We'll be right back.
I'm Howard Mackler of GetRefunds.com. You may have heard me talk about the payroll tax refund program that gives businesses up to $26,000 for every employee they kept on payroll during COVID. But today, I'm not going to do the talking. I'm letting a real Get Refunds client tell you everything.
I'm Brian O'Brien, owner of the Beam Easy Living Center. I heard about the tax refund in GetRefunds.com on the radio. When COVID hit my business, we were uncertain of how we would be able to keep our employees working and supporting their families while maintaining a business. Then GetRefunds.com got me approved for a payroll tax refund. And with that money, was able to reinvest in our employees that were able to stay with us during such a difficult time. If you have a business, you should go to GetRefunds.com and start your claim right now. You will be glad you did.
GetRefunds.com helped their business, and we can help yours too. Go to GetRefunds.com and see if you qualify in just 8 minutes. GetRefunds.com, powered by Innovation Refunds.
Thomas Helbig of the Retirement Advisory Group makes his living helping you make your living in retirement. You've saved and you've worked really hard. And now that you're getting into your mid-50s and you know that retirement is around the corner, sooner for some than others possibly, you want to make sure that you can breathe that sigh of relief, that exhale, that your retirement is going to work for you the way you expected it to. With a lot of uncertainty right now in the economy, you want to not see every news headline or see every news report on TV and kind of tense up a little bit and start to panic a little bit because maybe you don't get to retire when you wanted to. Maybe you thought that you had done enough, but you're just not sure if it's going to be able to stretch for the amount of time that you want to be retired for. Thomas Helbig can help you with that. His keys to a worry-free retirement. And all you have to do is set up a no-cost, no-obligation retirement review by calling 314-993-9494. 314-993-9494. And Thomas Helbig is going to set you up real good. Online at retirementkey.com.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon for Ophthalmology Associates. My eye health is super important to me for a variety of reasons. About 30 years ago, I had an eye disease, and I almost had a retinal detachment, had surgery, everything has been okay, but regular eye care has become important for me and has been for decades. And I only trust the best. And that's doctors Greg Birdie and Ranjan Malhotra at Ophthalmology Associates. They're here in St. Louis to take care of all of your vision needs. Maybe you have dry eye or your eyes itchy and scratchy. It might be more than just allergies. And Ophthalmology Associates is a leader in dry eye diagnosis and treatment. Let's talk LASIK. With modern LASIK procedures, more people can benefit, and LASIK can reduce or eliminate your need for contacts and glasses. Even if there's nothing going on in particular, annual eye health exams can prevent many kinds of eye and health problems, and they're typically covered by insurance. If you want excellent eye care, trust Ophthalmology Associates. It's a great office experience and staff. They're always on the leading edge of the latest technology. 12990 Manchester Road, a half mile west of 270, 314-966-5000. Online at youridoc.com. That's youridoc.com.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio. 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
You're not forgotten. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Former President Donald Trump bringing that message to East Palestine, Ohio, where toxic chemicals were released in a train derailment earlier this month.
What this community needs now are not excuses and all of the other things you've been hearing, but answers and results, and that's what I think you're going to say.
Trump adding that he'll be back if the town doesn't get the attention it needs, while criticizing President Biden for his trip to Europe and the money spent on helping Ukraine. The White House says the president has been briefed and made calls on Ohio while in Europe. Tomorrow, the transportation secretary plans to visit East Palestine after multiple trips by the EPA administrator. A Republican senator considered a potential presidential candidate is in Iowa.
South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott toured a Catholic school in Des Moines with Iowa's governor, who recently signed a school choice bill into law.
When parents have a choice, kids have a chance.
School choice will cost hundreds of millions of dollars each year in Iowa and allow families to use over $7,500 annually to send their kids to private schools. Scott remained coy about being in the first state to hold a presidential nominating contest for Republicans, saying he was there to listen to Americans.
And I understand and appreciate what the constituents, your bosses, really want from elected officials. To the extent that you understand that, you're better informed and educated on the next steps.
And he said until then, it's best not to think about those next steps.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Tesla CEO Elon Musk just announcing a newly expanded engineering headquarters in California after a meeting with Governor Newsom. An hour to the close on Wall Street, stocks turning lower after minutes just released from the Fed's latest meeting showing unanimous agreement that ongoing rate hikes would be appropriate to keep fighting inflation. Right now, the Dow is down 138 points. America is listening to Fox News.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. Hungry kids get sick more often and can struggle in school. It can be harder for them to focus and learn. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures.
We want to ensure that all of our kids have healthy meals every day.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping feed our kids.
To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
A thin, very intense squall line moving across the St. Louis area now. This will be in play up until about 3 o'clock this afternoon as it moves across the St. Louis metropolitan area, producing damaging straight line winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour. The good news is it only lasts about 15 minutes in any particular neighborhood, and then it is gone. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
So let's talk about Foley Dental Group, why the Foley Dental Group is the dentist for the Annie Frey Show, or family, my family specifically. I think it's really important that you go to people who you trust, and you trust with the whole experience of having a dentist that you can rely on. You trust them to be able to handle your teeth cleanings. You trust them to be able to give you information based on your experience there that's going to help you have better dental health. And at Foley Dental Group, they take a whole health approach to it. They're very good at being able to deal with a lot of things that might be plaguing you, a lot of sleep disordered breathing issues that if you're not sleeping right, that makes it very difficult to do many other things in your life well. They can help sleep disordered breathing in adults and in children. This is why the whole Annie Frey family goes to see the Foley Dental Group and to put our dental care into their hands. They are the best at it. They are accommodating for all ages. They make you feel comfortable and they make you understand exactly what it is that they're talking to you about so you can make educated decisions on your dental health. If you're in the market for a dentist, please consider Foley Dental Group. You will not be disappointed, and they are taking new patients. 618-288-9670. That's 618-288-9670, FoleyDentalGroup.com.
Did you know the IRS is a super creditor? Hi, I'm Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. The IRS is the only creditor that can create a bill for you without your permission, then drop the hammer and aggressively collect it by wiping out your bank account, seizing your assets, and levying your wages. No other creditor can do that, and this can all happen without a court approval. If you owe back taxes, you need to be prepared to face the super creditor. Don't just sit back and take it. Fight back. At the Lance Drury Law Firm, we know how to use the laws to your advantage and go toe-to-toe with the IRS. Our office is located right here in St. Louis. Contact the Lance Drury Law Firm today for a free consultation with me, or visit us at lancedrurylaw.com or call 314-260-6120. That's 314-260-6120 to get started.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Hi, this is Terry Hall, host of the popular radio show for veterans, Vet Time in America. Sundays at 12 noon on 97.1 FM Talk. Our show is all about veterans. We talk with experts. We help you get benefits, how to get more, and what to do if you're not getting what you deserve. Tune in on Sunday at noon. Join the conversation. We take calls. Vet Time in America. Tune in this Sunday at noon on 97.1 FM Talk.
When it comes to your tax refund, think biggest, as in Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest refund or your money back plus $100. Limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Conservative Care is our monthly action plan to make a difference in our community. Hi, this is Kathleen from the Mark Cox Morning Show, and in February, we're focused on the Animal Protective Association of Missouri, connecting people with animals in need of homes. Learn more at 971talk.com/care.
Big ideas, real debate, solid entertainment. You found it here.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
97.1 FM Talk.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. We appreciate you being here with us. Really rainy outside right now. I'm trying to get our boss Steve to go report live from the park out here.
Nice.
In the rain. In like a yellow raincoat.
Didn't we talk about like having Ryan do that sort of thing?
I'm not opposed to it, but I thought it'd be great if Steve did it. Like,
that would be
take
great,
one for
too.
the team, show his 97.1 FM Talk leadership right out there.
Mm-hmm. Right in the middle of the park.
Appears
No
to be
protection.
pretty wet out here, Annie. A little windy. Some trash on the park ground here for Mardi Gras. It's blowing slowly across the grass. I just think it would be great radio.
You say yes?
He said he would do a man on the street, so I don't think he's serious. And I think he read my message to him, which was really just said, will you please go report on the rain from the park out here? You can call in man on the street.
I like the idea of a man on the street because then he would not only be out there, he would be asking others what it was like for them out there.
No, they wouldn't, because there's no idiots that are standing out there right now.
Wonder why.
Including Steve, who's not out there right now. I guess he has his limits.
Sometimes, you know what, though? Sometimes I get the impression he'd rather be standing outside in the rain than doing whatever it is
This
he's
is
doing.
how I feel inside. Might as well be out here expressing it. Just sad and rainy and windy with the water just dripping down my face.
Well, I guess Hannah will have to do it then.
Absolutely not. I am not sending her out there to stand in that park on any given day.
Well, yeah, it's probably safe
I know
for
that
today.
you could probably just listen to the first half of the show when we had Will Scharf in here to discuss exactly why I wouldn't put Hannah out there to do that. Today's YouTube live chat poll: when should children have access to their own cell phone? You got 4 options, and if you want to vote, here's how you do it. You go to YouTube, you type in Annie Frey, Frey. You can type in Annie Frey Live or whatever. We have a live video broadcast every day, including today. And in the live chat portion where you can join the conversation, there's a poll that's pinned to the top of it. When should children have access to their own cell phone? Your options are anytime when parent approved, age 13, age 16, age 18. And if you don't like those options, tough. You have to those are the only ones you get. Brad, you are a youth pastor. You deal with a lot of kids that are, going through life all of those ages are difficult. The ages leading up to it, it's all difficult. What are your thoughts on this?
So whenever you say cell phone, my mind immediately goes to
smartphone.
No, to a flip phone, because to me, a smartphone is a smartphone. I'm good giving a kid a cell phone, but not a smartphone, if that makes sense.
You're telling me that this is not a cell phone?
Well, that's also a cell phone, but I think of that as a smartphone.
Well, you're confusing the audience.
I'm sorry.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about.
Okay, so you're talking about a smartphone. At that point, I'm not ready to give a child one until at least 16. I mean, I think I was 18 before I had a phone in general.
That's not the same, because cell phones weren't a thing. They weren't smart. They weren't mainstream until, honestly, I got one as a 16-year-old. I might have been 15 when I first got it. It was like kind of right before I got a car, but not very many of my friends had them. And I had 30 minutes a month that I could use in total. There was no texting. It was a Nokia phone that played Snake. So I don't feel like we can effectively say I didn't need one, because that's not the way kids are today.
Yeah, but I still struggle to see why they would need a smartphone. I mean, if you're not using it for communication purposes, which is...
The poll says, when should children have access to their own cell phone?
Yeah, not until after 16.
16.
Yeah.
And your experience working with youth, teenagers, I'm sure, what are some reasons why you think that it should be, that 16 is a good age to say, okay, maybe we can do this now, as opposed to 14 being too young?
The biggest reason I can see, and I don't even know that kids are ready for this at 16, but you're inviting everything on the internet into your home. You're basically unlocking your door and saying, come on in, expose my kids to whatever it is that's out there on the internet. And if you stop and think about whatever it is that's out there on the internet, there's a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that is not good. There's a lot of good people on the internet. There's a lot of very, very bad people on the internet. There's a lot of good content on the internet. There's a lot of very, very bad content on the internet. And I don't think that kids need to be exposed to that. And in my personal experience, I've seen more children deal with major issues from social media and bad influences from the internet because they had access to it beforehand. They also don't learn the skills that they need to have to entertain themselves in that point. I see a lot of parents that the very first thing they do is reach into their bag and give their kid a phone. I understand there are times when that works better or not for whatever, given the circumstances. But in general, as a general rule, I would rather a parent give a kid like a coloring book and some crayons and be like, here, entertain yourself. So I think that they miss out on developing certain life skills prior to that as well.
So Ryan, you've got 3 kids. How old are they?
8, 8, and 5.
When should children have access to their own cell phone?
Yeah, if we're talking about smartphone, then definitely 18. I'm going high as possible on that. We haven't gotten there yet. Obviously, they're 8, so we haven't had to cross that bridge, but I'm looking 10 years down the road and saying now's the time, if you're going to get on the internet, for really a lot of the same reasons that Brad just listed, not just the things that you can find. Even if we were putting up parent guards, because I understand a lot of that exists, you can have...
Kids know how to override all of them. All of them. All of them.
But even if they're not intending to want to override them, which I would hope my kids would be, I don't know, we hope, you still can stumble into things even outside the parent guards. But it's like you said with brain development, if you have that access to instant information, shoot, it affects adults, let alone kids. So I really want them to cultivate things like writing. My daughter really likes to do that at night, creative stuff, whatever else you can do, reading outside the internet before they jump into that boat.
I think that the connectivity is the thing, though. It's not about, you both talked about occupying your time with a phone. I think it's way more than that. Of course, the internet, you can access anything. And I'm just going to say it first and foremost, pornography is one of the most abused things by people who don't understand how to manage access, that at a young age, we don't generationally understand that. And I think that people always talk around this. I'm not talking around it. I'm talking about it directly because I think that we need to talk more directly about these things when it has a huge impact on why we would decide to say, no, not any time, but maybe age 13. Not 13, but maybe 16. Not 16, but maybe 18. The connectivity between people and the communication that exists between kids. I grew up in a generation where we had a phone corded in the kitchen and I wrapped it around and closed the door over the top of the cord and sat on the floor of my parents' bedroom and talked to my friends, boys and girls alike, growing up for hours. That's what we did. That is not something that can be, that's not what kids do today. They sit and they text and they message or Snapchat or whatever it might be. They message on Instagram. There are a million different places these kids can communicate. So if you're, if we're talking about like young kids and occupying time, I think that is definitely something that people have swapped in a coloring book for a phone that's going to play videos. I've certainly done that myself with my own phone or with the extra phone that we have in our house when I feel like the other options aren't going to cut it, but it's definitely not the default. But what about, Ryan, the fact that your kids are not going to be able to communicate with all the other kids? Because I'm telling you right now, my daughter is 10, is maybe the only person who doesn't have a phone in her class.
Wow, that's rough. Since my wife is a teacher and they're going to go to the school that she's at, she kind of keeps a finger on the pulse for where the kids are.
You think that's Steve out there right now?
All I can see is your reflection.
There's one man walking like a soldier through the park here. Yeah, if they're in the presence, back to your kids, if the kids are in the presence of where your parents, your mom or your wife is, their mom, I guess that makes a difference. But it's...
Well, the social aspect matters. I mean, that's what you're saying. And she kind of keeps an eye on who has what. And with the kids in that school, at least right now, about half of them don't have access to that when they're in their teens. And I think that's a very deliberate choice for the people sending them to that school. It's probably not the case in most areas.
I think it's going to change every year also.
It could. It very well could by the time they get there. So right now, there's not as much social pressure on them if they were at that age. But by the time they get there, we'll have to assess.
So this is a story that I want to talk about, and it's for more mature ears, but I think that the mature ears definitely need to understand this. And I think that these things do not get covered the way they should. And I feel when I read this story, it like rips my heart out to talk about this and to identify the fact that this happened. And I can't, as a mother, read a story like this and not think about my own kids. It's once I became a mother, it's impossible for me to consume stories and not, at least for a moment, put myself in the position to understand what it would like to endure something like this. And this story has to do with suicide. And I want to tell you right now that if you or someone you know that is having thoughts of suicide, I want you to know that the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988. Call it. With that being said, this was a story that was reported on Fox News, and it is heart-wrenching, and you need to know about these things. A Mississippi father who lost his son to a growing sextortion trend targeting teen boys issued a stark warning for parents on their children's social media access as the nationwide debate over cyber safety takes center stage. Bryant Montgomery lost his 16-year-old son Walker to the dangerous trend back in December after he took his own life when he was extorted with explicit imagery. Montgomery joined America's Newsroom to discuss the tragedy and how parents can take action and keep the same thing from happening to their children. Montgomery said Walker was targeted by threats originating from Nigeria, according to the FBI, despite rumors the threat was local. His teen son reportedly received a message from an Instagram account modeling an attractive young girl that lured him into communication after claiming to be a mutual acquaintance. Eventually, Walker opened a video chat with the perpetrators, who recorded him partaking in sexual activity. Shortly after, they pressed him for $1,000, according to his father, using the imagery as leverage. The information we collected shows that the pressure Walker was under was unbearable to the point that during this exchange, Walker finally tells them, "Hey, I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to kill myself." And they respond with, "Go ahead, because you're already dead." The dad said, "But I want people to understand the evil that is out there in the world that is after our kids." Montgomery argued the growing trend is not only a matter of parental supervision, but also noted that the tech companies should be held accountable for kids' safety online. If a child, and 16, that's still a child. It's biologically, scientifically a child. If a child at 16 years old, take every bit of technology out of the conversation. You likely know what it was like to be 16. I presume half, maybe a little more than half of you know what it was like to be a 16-year-old boy. You know what it's like to be to face a bunch of questions about who you are as a person, about things you're experiencing as you're maturing. It is difficult for any child to go through that transition in their life where they are growing up and they are experiencing adult things for the first time in their life. Pressures, curiosities, interests. You put a phone in their hand? This guy was on Instagram. I don't think that the story is that far off. And I think that if you think that you've raised your child or your grandchildren are being raised not to do those types of things, I think you're wrong. I think that under pressure, humans for all time have been pressured for lesser reasons than that to do things that they regret, to do things that were stupid, and you have to live with them. But we don't know what it's like to live with video of ourselves during our worst mistakes, photos of ourselves during our worst mistakes. Kids growing up today do know that. And I'm sure that Brian Montgomery, knowing what happened to his son, would love nothing more to say, "You are not that video. You made one mistake. We love you." That's simple. I don't understand. And I talk about this issue a lot on the show because I'm struggling with it, because my children don't have phones. They're not given access to phones. If they have them, it's in my presence or it's in the presence of other adults. It's not in a bedroom by themselves or, in a scenario where they're going to have the time and access to those phones. But I know that even that amount of time is enough time for curiosities to get the best of them and for something bad to happen, to make a rash decision in their weakest moment because somebody out there's trying to exploit them for money. I don't understand why we're not talking about this more. I don't understand the concept of, and we've had some comments here, and that's why I want to have the discussion, because I want to continue to push through this for my household. I'm genuinely having this conversation because I have interest in various thoughts and opinions on it. But when people say that children should have cell phones and we need to teach them how to handle responsibility and holding that responsibility away from them, at the same time, you're asking the world to be responsible with your kids. And the world's not ever going to be responsible with your kids. It's too big of a risk for me to take right now. And I would have said age 16, but I put age 18 on here because at this point, I'm not even sure that I'm 100% sure about the 16 thing. And I see story after story about exploitation of children, about the fear, the panic, that if you were that 16-year-old boy and you did something that probably isn't all that unnatural in response to an emotion and a feeling that you had at a time, something that was exciting, and you realize you were set up and taken advantage of and going to be exploited. And your initial reaction is fear, and you make the most final decision in that fear that you can because they were more afraid than they felt loved in that moment, is heartbreaking. For me as a parent, I can only imagine what it's like for Brian Montgomery as a parent. I'm just curious if that affects your thoughts on this poll. I want to get Brad and Ryan's reaction to the story. I don't know if you guys had heard this story before I did it here. So let's talk about that when we come back. And we'll get some of your comments as well. If you join us on the Annie Frey YouTube channel, you can comment and react to this poll question. When should children have access to their own cell phone? Anytime when parent approved, age 13, age 16, age 18. We'll be right back.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Telling me I'm not alone. Sure hate being alone. Speaking of the devil, here you come, look out hard.
Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
Stewart's American Mortgage, the Bagel Loan, is there to help you make sure that when you are making an offer on a home, that you become the most competitive buyer. And of course, you get that home. Stewie can help you be a part of a great team of people working to make sure that that is the case for you. When you call 314-324-40 or you text 314-324-40, you're going to get a hold directly of Stewie. And you can ask him about the Bagel Loan. And you can ask him about how you can save on closing costs because they don't exist. They're not there. He doesn't charge you any of those closing costs that you're going to have to pay wherever else you go, making you the most competitive buyer by adding in the fact that he can close in 12 days, a super fast close, no closing costs, which means you have money that you can then apply to your down payment, that you can apply to the offer, that you can put in your savings account, or maybe buy a big screen TV or something for the new basement. Stewie at Stewart's American Mortgage is there to help make you that competitive buyer. And all you got to do is call or text 314-324-4440, 314-324-4440. You can Google the Bagel Loan as well. NMLS number 226715.
I'm JR of CBS Sports Radio, and I want to introduce you to a new podcast titled Agents of Inclusion, brought to you by Special Olympics, Odyssey, and JR Sport Brief Productions. Every Wednesday, we'll be speaking with a different Special Olympics athlete to share their stories of perseverance, accomplishment, and path towards inclusion. We don't want you to just listen. We want you to become an active agent of inclusion as well. Special Olympics, Agents of Inclusion. Find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you want to see better in the new year, there's no better time to call Brenton Vision than right now. Mark Cox here. My friends at Brenton have everything you need to get the crisp, clear vision you've always wanted. Call them at 314-375-2020 or go online today to brentonvision.com. They are the only team in Missouri to perform all 7 FDA-approved forms of vision correction. That includes modern LASIK, permanent contact lenses, and if you have bad reading vision, they even have treatments for you too. So stop throwing your money away. My wife got lens replacement. She sees perfectly these days, and she loves it. Quit putting it off. If it's standing in your way of achieving your goals and your resolutions, Brenton Vision is here to help. Call them today at 314-375-2020. Tell them you heard Mark Cox talking about it. That's 314-375-2020. Or schedule right now at brentonvision.com.
According to Forbes, 96% of Americans, 96%, lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. Learn how you could avoid this in a one-night adult education class. Retirement Planning 101. Held at colleges and universities throughout Greater St. Louis. In just 3 hours, you'll benefit from decades of financial planning experience about Social Security, taxes, healthcare and Medicare, investing for income, and so much more. These classes are hosted by financial and tax architects, your retirement professors. If you've saved at least $300,000 for retirement, register now by calling 314-626-8817. You pay zero tuition if you call today. So call 314-626-8817. 314-626-8817.
Oh, Hank, what a wonderful spider web you have built for us. I love this fabulous space we have right here in the corner of the kitchen.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think I'll build us a vacation web in the coat closet. Maybe even one in Susie's room, too. Oh no, it's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the move.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
John Mellencamp is coming to the Stiefel Theater on April 22nd, and every hour you log into the Odyssey app, you'll be entered to win. Between now and March 5th, listen to 97.1 FM Talk on the Odyssey app, and you could win tickets to see John Mellencamp April 22nd.
Hey, Nate. How's life? I don't know. It's all right. I've been dealing with some things like every human being and really didn't sleep much last night. I'm sorry. That's fine. I just think I need a little me time. I just think I need a little free time. Little break from the shows and the bus rides. Yeah. Last year I had a breakdown.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
Too loud. Had to see a therapist and I found out.
Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
My car, take a new route. Clean up my yard, get the new
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Appreciate you being with us this afternoon. So I just told a story. It's on Fox News that you can check it out. Dana Perino did an interview with Brian Montgomery, and it's about Brian's 16-year-old son who was targeted by some scammers from Nigeria, according to the story here. And essentially, they posed as an attractive young girl, mutual acquaintance of the son, and opened up a conversation, was going through that conversation, turned into a video chat that turned into them persuading him to do some sexual activity on this video chat. And then they took that video and said, oh, by the way, we need $1,000 from you. And they exploited him. And the kid panicked and he ended his life because of it, because of a video chat. It's such a scary and extreme version of how social media, how, individual or unsupervised access to these types of devices can hurt kids. But I do think it needs to be part of the conversation. And there's scary conversations as a parent for myself to hear that and to think about my kid having done something that was super regretful. We've all done things in our life, maybe not in this context, but we've all done things that we're ashamed of or regretful, especially when we were growing up. It's part of growing up because you make mistakes and you learn some of those lessons the hard way. And it just is, it's gut-wrenching to think that he didn't think he had an alternative to that. Brad, I want your thoughts on that story. And
well, I was kind of talking to Ryan about this in the break. I said, to me, the worst part about this story is you can do everything right. You can do absolutely everything right. You could teach your kids better. You could have kids. You could do everything in your power as a parent to do everything right, and this still could happen. And to me, the most shocking thing about this and the hardest thing for parents right in this moment is to know that they have to come to that realization that you can't control everything. What is the right answer to that? I sit here and I was thinking, as you were telling the story, what could be done differently to keep, how could social media companies, how could, XYZ, what could they have done to prevent this from happening? But there's always going to be something that slips through.
Fox News says that the dad, Brian Montgomery, said there's a lot of criminal activity that originated within social media, and our tech companies have the ability to filter and censor, especially for minors. And they're not investing in those technologies as aggressively as they are something that they can sell. He described his son Walker as, quote, just like any other kid who loved his family, being outdoors and football. He said, we have no question about where Walker's at. We're Christians. Walker is in heaven with Christ, waiting on us.
There's not, you can't control everything. And it sounds like they tried, they were trying hard to teach their son right from wrong. And man, with these situations, it's incredibly difficult because either by nature or by nurture, your kids are the most like you. So if you're thinking, well, how do I protect my kids from this? I always try to put myself in that age and think, well, what was I experiencing in that age so that I can try to identify with them a little bit. But with technology, things were so different at that age that it's not quite the same. Now, the morality and the issues are the same, but the the ways about them and the ease and the access is different. When I was a teenager, I think you guys probably experienced this. I'm maybe a year or two older than you, so that makes a big difference with technology sometimes. But when I was a teenager, it was chat rooms.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Okay, so you guys, so chat rooms, but nobody was really warning you even at that time.
Nobody knew
that it was a problem because nobody knew. So I picture, okay, well, what would I done in the chat room? Well, I would have wanted to know, because there were some weirdos. I mean, you'd get some stuff going on in those things.
I
that you're
actually
like,
think
whoa.
they were majority weirdos.
Yes. Yeah. And so I would be in there and in full view of a parental figure because you didn't really know. It wasn't like you were trying to hide. You thought this was fine. This was like the World Wide Web. I'm connected with people all over the place. It's neat. But I would have wanted to know before that some parameters and some warnings. And then I would have wanted them to let me go because you're a teenager. That's what you want. But at this age, I think they've been warned and they're still going to fall through those cracks at times. You're still going to mess up. And then you need to know, and this is just my own process for parenting, then what they need to know is beyond just the warnings and right from wrong, which we will have and already are teaching them. If you mess up, please talk to me. You are forgiven, and this comes very central to the Christian faith. You are not condemned. You are forgiven for whatever it is. Get rid of the shame by getting it into the light. And I don't know, this kid probably was taught that. But how do I cultivate that relationship enough with my kids that they're going to be willing to talk to me about it?
I think that the story, I commend Fox News for doing the story because it's not an easy thing to talk about. It's not something that I want to spend a 2:00 conversation talking about something that's this sad. And, the shame that Walker, that 16-year-old kid would have felt to push him to end his life in this way is it's very difficult to think about my children feeling that shame. That hurts. But I do think that this story being out there on Fox News, I'm 100% going to sit down with my son, who is 13 years old, and say, I want to tell you a story about something that really happened. So that you can have that conversation ahead of time. And in that conversation comes, I want you to know what Walker's parents would want to tell Walker had they been given the opportunity. And I want you to know what I would want to tell you in that same instance. And I demand the opportunity to have a say. If you feel like you've done something that is unforgivable, that is so shameful, that goes against, I talk about on the show about being a Christian. And it's very important in this instance. This isn't for you folks. This is for my kids. I'm saying this out loud right now for my kids. It's very important for you, son or daughter, to understand that the idea that we're Christians is not an indication of how good we are. It is an admission of how bad we are. All of us, every single person who's ever walked the face of the earth, save one. It's not about being good. It's about admitting that you're bad and understanding that there is actually grace that is there. I mean, I'm glad that Fox News added into the end of that story and that Brian Montgomery said that on the air, that they're a Christian family. Because if that decision by Walker was made in that moment of just utter darkness and fear, it's not the embodiment of his entire life. And I just think that these conversations, when we have the benefit of learning from other people's mistakes or tragedies, that we need to understand that in some way, shape, or form, that can be something you can do to help the next person because of the suffering of somebody else, and to have those conversations. I don't know if this conversation on the air, like I said at the beginning of it, this is a kind of a more mature topic of conversation for the Annie Frey Show. I understand that some of you are picking up your kids. Some of you might have left the radio on, and your kids might be listening to this right now. And I want you kids to understand that your parents love you and are always going to be there for you, and that the big, bad, scary world is going to be out there to get you, and you're going to make mistakes in the midst of it. And the love of somebody else, like your parents or your family, is what is going to have to get you through. And the understanding that your mistakes aren't really any bigger than anybody else's mistakes. Ever.
They always feel bigger, though.
Sure. And they feel bigger when you keep them to yourself. And they feel bigger because it consumes you. And to me, the details of this specific story of a kid who had access to something that, I can't reiterate this enough, what that kid had access to is something that 16-year-olds have had access to forever. Different form in video chatting on Instagram, but the biological thing that pushed him to be in the place that he was, married with the technology that we have today, is not a unique thing to this one kid. And that's why I think it's so important that we talk about how technology amplifies something that is so much a part of human nature. It has to be talked about. Like, Brad, there can't be any shame in saying this happened, and being able to tell a kid like Walker, if you were given the chance, like, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hardest part. And like, in dealing with teenagers, everything is bigger. Mm-hmm. Everything is bigger. Even the stuff that seems small to you, it only seems small to you because you've dealt with it and moved past it. This is the first time they're dealing with a lot of this stuff ever.
You've grown bigger than it.
Yeah. And to them, it seems like the biggest deal in the world because it actually is the biggest deal in the world to them. And part of it is helping them not prevent making mistakes, but helping them deal with how to get over the mistakes that you've made. There's nobody out there that's going to live a perfect life. It's just not going to happen. Every one of us has sat here and we've made mistakes. The real skill in maturing in life is growing and learning from those mistakes and owning your mistakes. You look back at everything that you've done. Every one of us in here could look back at things that we've done and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But we own our mistakes and we move past it. We move forward. We keep going. Part of being a great parent is helping your child understand that these mistakes are going to happen. You're going to do stuff that you regret. That doesn't define you for the rest of your life. It won't define you for the rest of the life, but it's going to hurt when you go through it. But I'm here to go through it with you.
Holly on our YouTube channel said, my pastor said something last week that stuck with me. You can't out-sin God's grace. We'll leave it at that. Let's take a quick break. We'll get the results to the poll when we return. When should children have access to their own cell phone? Anytime when parent approved, age 13, age 16, age 18. I haven't looked at the results yet. So go flood that poll with some votes. You go to the Annie Frey YouTube channel in the live chat portion, and that poll is right there. You can vote, and we want your comments. Hannah's going to read them when we come back. Don't go away.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on Twitter @Annie Frey Show.
Wrote a song about that, you should play it. I get scared when I walk on these stages. I look at the crowd and see so many faces. Yeah, that's when I start to get anxious. That's when my thoughts can be dangerous. That's when I put on my makeup and drown in self-hatred. Forget what I'm saying and where the beat go?
AirComfortService.com/insulation is where you can learn about how you can check the insulation in your house. Free estimates. That's fancy. If you want to figure out why your furnace is running all the time, it seems like it's pushing out warm air. Why is your house not getting warmer? Same thing with the air conditioner. That insulation weakness in your house can be causing that problem, keeping you out of your comfort zone and causing you to run your HVAC system way more than you need to. That's expensive. Reach out to Air Comfort Service at 314-513-0091, 314-513-0091 for a free estimate on the insulation in your home. You can find out what the R value of your insulation is. 9 out of 10 homes are under insulated. Is yours? Air Comfort Service can help you with this process. With a properly maintained HVAC system and proper insulation, you're going to see an increase in your energy savings, an increase in comfort, and better indoor air quality. Visit my friends at Air Comfort Service. I'm a happy customer of theirs for a variety of reasons, and their insulation services are top-notch. aircomfortservice.com/insulation.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Plantar fasciitis feels like pointed, sharp pain, very intense. I had instability. I was so frustrated. I didn't know what to do. And I was driving past the Good Feet store. I mean, why not? Give it a try. They wanted to make sure they fit me with the right thing. They brought out several different arch supports and gave me the opportunity to try them in shoes and walk around with them until they found the perfect ones. And the Good Feet arch supports were what gave me the relief I needed.
Call 314-317-9494 or visit one of our 2 locations on Olive west of I-270 in the Plaza with Subway or in Shiloh, Illinois across from Deerberg's.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Individual results may vary. Consult your physician for medical conditions. Visit the website goodfeetstlewis.com. Come in and try the Good Feet feeling today. Comfort you might have been missing for years. Good Feet products are proudly made in the USA.
Are you ready to smell better naked? I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN creator of Lumi, the whole body deodorant that's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours on pits, feet, privates, and beyond. It's pH optimized to safely and effectively control odor anywhere you have it, but wish you didn't. Plus, it's proven to work better than a shower with soap alone. Whether you shower twice a day or 3 times a week, Lumi works better. And did we mention it's aluminum free? With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I'm so sure you're going to love it, or you can return it for free.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code 901 and get an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack that comes with a solid stick, cream tube, free product of your choice, and ships free with code 901. LumeDeodorant.com, code 901 for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. Love it or return it for free. That's LumeDeodorant.com, code 901.
Mark Cox here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call Thomas Helbig with the Retirement Advisory Group at 314-993-9494. He'll show you how to participate in the market gains without ever losing a penny. Thomas is the official financial advisor of the Mark Cox Morning Show.
Have you always dreamed of a lush green lawn? Get that beautiful curb appeal without the hassle by calling Professional Irrigation Systems. They'll install your new automatic lawn sprinkler system and give you a variety of options and warranties. Don't spend half your day lugging a hose around watering your lawn. Let Professional Irrigation Systems do the work for you. They offer spring activations, backflow testing, mid-season tune-ups, and winterization. Call the pros that have been in business for 20 years. Professional Irrigation Systems. Online at proirrigation.com.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service offers insulation services. Did you know 9 out of 10 homes are under insulated? Increase your energy savings and comfort with better insulation. For details, visit aircomfortservice.com.
The Mark Reardon Show.
J. Peter Zane, editor of Real Clear Investigations.
The attack on objectivity in journalism is related to a much more profound attack on all of the Western concepts.
Weekdays from 3 to 6.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
Come up to meet you, tell you I'm sorry, you don't know how lovely you are. I had to find.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Appreciate you being here with us. Kind of a heavier 2 o'clock hour here. We're talking about the idea, the YouTube poll today. You can still hurry up and go to the Annie Frey Show and vote in the YouTube poll. When should children have access to their own cell phone? Anytime when parent approved, age 13, age 16, age 18. And your comments, Hannah's going to read them here in a second. But I encourage you to, Brad's going to put together, I think, are you going to put together, I sent you that article, or that, you going to share it?
Yeah, I'll share that article.
Okay. We might put together this segment afterwards. So I would, if it's something that is helpful to you, if you want to share this conversation with anybody in your life, people in your family, maybe a significant other, if you've been talking about these issues, I think the story is one that is an eye-opener for a lot of people, and wanted to take the opportunity to discuss it here. So essentially what happened was a 16-year-old was on Instagram and was essentially scammed by people from Nigeria, posting as a peer, a mutual acquaintance or something of this boy named Walker, who's 16, and struck up a conversation with him. Eventually a video chat gets opened. He engages in some sexual acts in front of the video chat, and it turns out these are Nigerian scammers. They take the video and say, we're going to use this against you, send us $1,000. He panics and he kills himself. And it's a very tragic story. I will reiterate, as I did at the beginning of this conversation, that if you or anybody you know is having thoughts of suicide, if you've ever been around anybody who's dealing with this issue right now, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988. Please call it. Hannah, your thoughts on this whole topic and just kind of any reaction that you might have?
That story was really hard to hear, and I think it happens more often than we know. For the conversation surrounding our YouTube poll about when children should have access to their own cell phones, I voted that anytime when the parent approves the action. I think every kid is different. Every home situation is different. And I don't think it's fair to put an age limit on something like that, because I think every kid is different.
Okay. Why don't you give us some of the reactions to this from our listeners before we get to the results?
All right. Mark from YouTube said, we do it when our kids go into high school. You have to teach them how to use it responsibly when they are at home, not once they are out of the house. Sherry said that I voted for parent approved. We are on our 5th teenager now. We told the kids we would get them phones when we needed them to have phones. Pond from YouTube said, my 13-year-old grandson has a phone, but it is heavily restricted and monitored. It's more for him to be able to communicate with immediate family in an emergency. Jennifer said, I voted 16 when my son wanted one. I told him he could get one when he was able to get a job and pay the bill himself. Ball says, have to go with the parents' decision. Just hope they understand the phone along with social media are the tools progressives use to brainwash kids. Greg said that he did the poll. He said that the age kids get cell phones is at 16, only if they can pay monthly the cost of they have to pay the cell phone themselves. Linda said, I voted 16 because by then they are driving and there are no phone booths anymore. However, kids are home alone much more than earlier times, and almost nobody has a house phone anymore.
I think that it is the idea of putting parental locks and stuff on it is necessary. Like, you have to do those things. But Brad, what's your experience of dealing with kids who have lots of modifications and locks and all that stuff on their phone?
They know how to get around it, and they also know how to modify their phone to hide whatever it is they're on from you. They can actually lock you out of what they're doing on their phone, like hidden
Is it just
icons.
the bad kids that do that?
No, it's all the kids that do that. I want to dispel a myth that's really common. The saying goes, my child wouldn't lie to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they would. And yes, they are. They're lying to you right now. I don't want to say don't trust your kid, but don't trust your kid. They'll lie to you.
Don't trust your kid.
So, yeah, I don't know what the deal is, but whenever you're younger, you pick up technology faster. They're going to know how to get around it. And if they don't know how to get around it, their friends are, and their friends are going to help them do it. And their friends are going to work together, and they're going to show one another ways of, like, hiding this stuff from you.
Sometimes I think even that, like, the more, air quotes, good your kid is, the more likely they are to lie about it because they don't want to be in trouble for it.
Are you? Yeah, and when you look at your kid and you say, my kid is a good kid, are you reading your own press? Are you believing your own press? Are you actually looking at your kid? Or are you not wanting to admit what your kid is into or involved in?
Al asks on YouTube, was Annie one of the bad kids? No, I was impossibly, kind of embarrassingly good And if my friends who were around me who maybe had a little less rules, everybody had less rules than me. Sorry, Mom and Dad, it's just true. If I were around kids that knew how to do that and I learned how to do it, I'm not telling you that I wouldn't have potentially scratched the surface on going to look and see what everybody else was seeing that I wasn't able to. I mean, that's like Adam and Eve level.
Oh, yeah.
Original sin.
Yeah.
Type of a situation to see, if I was convinced by my friends, they're never going to know, Annie. I'm not going to go home and be like, I unlocked my phone and I looked at everything on the internet. I just thought I would tell you. Like, and if they bust me on it, no, I'm going to lie and they're going to tell me, Annie, we know you're lying. And I'm going to lie again and I'm going to lie again until, I don't know. I might just stick with it and still get punished. In that instance, because I was a rule follower and I got persuaded or enticed or seduced by what else was on the other side of the fence.
Two of the comments that really stuck out to me that Hannah just read, one of them was, when they're 16 or they start driving, whatever age that is, because it's not always 16 anymore, that's the age when I want them to have communication. I really understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So I get wanting to put the parameters on the phone while also having the phone because she said there aren't any phone booths anymore. The other one was I want to have them trained how to use these things while they're in the house. I thought actually there is probably some truth to that, although there's got to be a balance with age still. It can't,
It doesn't take years to train them. No. I mean, good grief, but they're going to train you how to use that phone after they've had it for a week.
But I just mean like morally saying, look, you're going to have the opportunity to use this. Here's how I want you to use it now. I'm going to train you that you can only use it after your homework's done, between the hours of blank and blank, or whatever it is.
I really feel like the biggest key that I have found so far in parenting, and I have so much to learn because my oldest is 13, so I'm just getting in the thick of it. The biggest asset that I think that I have is blunt truth. Mm-hmm. It's not because I said so. It's, I want to talk to you about a 16-year-old named Walker. This is what happened to him. I understand how he got into the situation, and it breaks my heart that he didn't know he could get out of the situation. And I don't want that to happen to you. And I understand that you could be under the same pressure that Walker is under with maybe different circumstances, and I don't want that for you. And that's why you don't have access to this, as opposed to you'll get it when I say so. And I think that, I don't know if our generation is any different than previous. I think we have a lot of different challenges. I feel like we have more challenges, but that's probably naive. I mean, some of you out there were raised during a world war. So I understand that might be naive of me to say. But the challenges are different, for sure. Thursday, we're going to talk with Rachel Campus Duffy at 1:25 p.m. on the Annie Frey Show about social media and children from a mom who has a bunch of kids and great opinions. Rachel Campus Duffy will join us at 1:25 Thursday. I'm really looking forward to that conversation because she has a very similar worldview as many of us do here. And I think that her voice on this issue is going to be a very interesting one. Any other thoughts before we get to the poll results?
No.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any real perfect answer for this.
There isn't a solution other than trying your best. And I would bet that the Montgomerys felt like they were doing their best. And it wasn't in that instance enough. And that's sad, which is why I want to talk about it. Poll?
All right, the YouTube poll is asking, when should children have access to their own cell phone? Anytime when a parent's approved it, the age of 13, the age of 16, or the age of 18. These are super tight poll results. 36% of the people said anytime when parent approved. 32% of the people said age of 16. 20% of the people said age 13, and 12% said the age of 18. Those are all
with over 200 votes. 12% saying 18 is actually kind of surprising to me, and I'm not sad about it. Thank you for being here with us. Tomorrow we'll have another great show lined up for you. Hope you're safe with the weather. The Mark Reardon Show up next.
Mark, are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now